Welcome, everyone, to the October 5th meeting of the Barrington Planning Board. Tonight in attendance, we have Donna Masucci, Andy M., Ron Allard, myself, James Jennison, Jeff Fran. With us virtually is Steve Diamond, the Code Enforcement Officer, John Huckins, Land Use Administrative Assistants, Barbara Irvine, and Connor McGyver. You don't have his name's not on here.
Esteemed guest.
Esteemed guest, thank you.
So is Andrew going to be, we're going to put him on the board?
Andy is not here. They're going to vote next week to put him on the board. Andy M.
He meant to have him act as a full member tonight,
But they're both acting as full members tonight because we're missing.
but you got to announce it.
Yeah, but
I didn't I?
no.
Wow. Donna Masucci and Andy M. are both acting as full members tonight in the absence of the two people that are missing, Buddy Hackett and
Candace Krantz.
Candace Krantz. Thank you. First on the agenda is approval of September 21st meeting minutes. Any questions, comments, corrections?
I have a comment. On page, bottom where they already voted. My vote is not there. On lot 103-0049.
Yep, you're not there. And what did you say?
I say yay.
All right.
Steve, anything to add?
Nope, all set.
Hearing no other comments, we'll do a roll call vote. Jennison, aye. Jeff Fran,
Brian, I.
Steve Diamond,
Diamond Eye?
Ron Allard,
That one correction, Alan.
Andy M.,
In the MI.
Donna Masucci.
Aye.
The minutes are approved as amended. Next up, we have 121-28-GR-20 SREXT, owner Todd Green, Barrington Shores Campground LLC. I believe Ray is online for that one. He was there a minute ago.
He was there.
Did we lose him?
He's not there now.
Can we have
This might be a-
discussion with?
This might be a relevant moment to note that the link in the agenda PDF did not work for me. I had to copy and paste it. I don't know if that would confuse anyone else.
He was here. Thank
Copy
you.
and pasted the agenda to get
He was there and then checked out. They are looking for a continuance. Correct?
Yeah.
Extension to work on the septic design.
Well, I'd like to make a comment about this.
Should we table it until we get Ray back in? And
No, I don't need Ray to make this comment. So going back and when this came up and he had and looked at the notice of decision, it said that he had 6 months to complete the precedent conditions. So I said, wait a minute, I thought this was a site plan review, not a subdivision review. Because we've got a disconnect, and we'll discuss this further as we're updating our regulations. We got a disconnect between the subdivision and site plan review regulations. Site plan review regulations, which this should have been handled under, as the 2-year expiration for plans, with no stipulation on completing precedent conditions. The subdivision regulations currently has a 6-month expiration on the plans, which is not consistent with site plan review. And going back and, we discussed last time, where does the 24 months come from? That's a state statute. you read the state statute, it says that it's specifically applicable to subdivision regulations. So our subdivision regulations are out of sync with site plan review and out of sync with the state statute. And they were last updated, that section, in 2015 before. And so we're gonna have to work on that as part of our update. But I guess my point here is that if this was a site plan review, it should have been approved under the site plan review regulations, which meant it should have had a 2-year date. I didn't pick up on the 6-month date when we were going through it. The board didn't pick up on that this was a site review and not the subdivision regulation. So, you know, if we're going forward with an extension, I would suggest that we ought to do it to an 18-month extension to bring it in line with the site review regulation, which it should have been approved under in the first place.
I'll ask you and John, the difference between precedent conditions, meeting precedent conditions, and active and substantial work being 2 years. Is,
If you read 67439, it states the plans that were, which means they were signed already by the board to be recorded. In the subdivision regulations, it talks about the same thing, but they also have a thing in there about, was it labeled?
But I guess my question is, we're talking about
Right.
substantial work being done and meeting precedent conditions.
But under our site plan review regulations, there is no time limit for conditions precedent.
Right, he's right. There's a 6-month one that's listed in
Subdivision.
in the subdivision, but not in.
But not in the site plan review.
Right. So, and when you go to the,
Because
Yeah.
right, but we don't want to give 2 years to meet precedent conditions.
that's the
Years.
point.
Well-
The board has a right to set those conditions, even if they're not listed specifically in your regulations.
I'm just saying that if this notice of decision had, I mean, and we all do it, it's basically you take a notice of decision for a subdivision or from site plan review, you fill in the appropriate, you know, nomenclature and conditions, and that's what goes through. And if you take the template for a subdivision and template for a site plan review notices of decisions don't contain a time limit on the conditions precedents, because there's nothing in our regulations that sets such a thing. Now, you're right that the board can decide to do whatever it wants,
And that's why it was in
But-
the decision.
but, well, no, I'm sorry, I plead guilty that had I seen that and thought about that at the time, I would have objected at the time, because it didn't meet the requirements of our site plan review regulations. I knew there was a 6-month requirement because of the subdivision regulations, and I didn't bother to stop and look it up and recognize there was a difference between the two.
But the 2-year that's in the RSA, and it's in our regulations, talks about approved plans or signed plans. So if you don't set a time on conditions of approval, they could sit there with conditions for multiple years until it gets signed before that 2-year clock starts. That's how I see it.
That's how I was looking at it. The difference between conditions precedents and active and substantial work.
Right, so
That's the 2 years.
the compliant, yeah.
active and
But I thought it
substantial
was
work.
after,
conditions of approval.
well, you got the, can you look up that art, what is it, 27439 or
270, yeah,
270?
27439, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And it talks about approved, recorded plans, which means they were approved by the chairman and signed.
Well, if that's the case, we got even more changes we got to make to the regulations. But I'm just pointing out that there is no limit in our site plan review regulations.
100% right. So that's the
Yep.
5-year exemption, and if you read the very top, it talks about plans that were recorded, and they can't get recorded until they're signed.
By the way, I do believe Ray Bisson is with us now.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Hi, Ray, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that.
Okay. That's all right. We started
But
we started a side discussion that started.
well, we're gonna have to discuss all this.
Yep.
But, you know, as we update the regulations, because as we discussed last time, we're terribly out of date with respect to the state statutes.
All right.
And maybe the state's got some guidance on that, but
Put that on the list for a workshop to hammer that out. Ray, welcome. We understand you're looking for a 3-month extension to complete the septic design.
Correct.
And Jeff was just stating that maybe more time would be appropriate.
I think maybe going for the 6 months might be good just because everything's backed up, and delays with everything. So we could go with the 6 if you guys
Well,
do so.
yeah, the reason we're having the debate, Ray, is because the time requirement of 6 months is in our subdivision regulations. This was a site plan review, which has no time limit on meeting the precedent conditions. So that's why we're thinking about a longer time period. And as a board, we've got to hash out, because there's all kinds of questions about where these time limits come from. We know part of it is rooted in the state statutes, which we're at odds with in both our subdivision and our site plan review regulations. But that's why we were discussing a longer time period.
So yeah, we're fine with going with the 6 months. That way we're not going to deal with it again if something else happens.
Board, have any questions for Ray? Motion to,
I make a motion to grant an extension of 6 months to meet the precedent conditions for application 121-28-GR-20-SR.
motion by Jeff Brand, second by Ron Allard. Andy M.
Andy, am I?
Donna Masucci.
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard.
Howard, aye.
Steve Diamond.
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand.
Brian, aye.
James Dennis and I, all in favor. Extension granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
You too.
Next on the agenda, we have 235-1.1 and 3-TC-21-SRLL 9.6 Dove Development Group, request by applicant. I believe we're continuing. Welcome.
Evening. James Hay, Barry Surveying and Engineering, representing Dove Development Group. We're seeking a continuance to the October 19th meeting, just finalizing our design plans, and should have them all wrapped up within the next couple of days.
Board, have any questions?
I would just like to make a comment that you guys have reserved that for your work session to try to get your and stuff together. So I'm not sure how much time you feel that you need to allow that. And you've got time to hear this case too and try to accomplish the work that you're trying to get forward. Deadline for zoning changes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, quite long-winded.
We really need it for the, yeah, I
You
mean,
typically wanted to make your your statement the last meeting was you wanted to keep the work sessions to do a work session and you wanted your applications the first meeting of the month. So I'm just reiterating what you guys.
well, in particular, for the zoning ordinance changes, because the clock is ticking.
Correct.
You know, for the other regulations, that's our schedule, we control that, but the zoning, we don't, so. We really need.
Terrible objection to November 2nd?
No, I mean, that's, works for the board, that's fine with us.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to continue application, consideration of application 235-1.1 and 3-TC-21-SR/LL until November, what was the date?
2nd.
2nd.
Motion by Jeff Brand, second by Ron Allard. Andy M.
Andy, am I?
Donna Masucci.
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard.
Howard, aye.
Steve Diamond.
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand.
Brian, aye.
James Jennison, aye. All in favor? Extension granted.
Thank you.
See you in November.
I guess my question is, since I've been on the board, we have never said no to a continuance, to my knowledge. Do we need to drag somebody in here every time? You have to notify in writing and,
There's been times where questions have been appropriate and information has been disseminated.
You may be right that we haven't denied a continuance, but we have asked
explanation.
serious and hard questions of applicants to justify that. And also in granting an extension said, okay, based on what you just told us, this is it. Next time you come back to the board, you're going to produce.
All right, moving on, number 3, 270, 2 and 3, 273-49-GR-21 sub, Anthony Sarah, request by Sal Roganese to construct an 11 lot conservation subdivision. And Mr. Guyer, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name is Barry Geyer. I'm with Jones Beach Engineers here for the applicant. This project was in front of you back in June for a design review. It's located at map 7 lots 2 and 3 and map 273 lot 49. Contains 58.87 acres in the general residential zone. The existing property has one single-family home. Access is from Meadowbrook Road. It has a large wetland complex to the southwest portion of the property. The applicant is proposing to construct an 11-lot conservation subdivision on a 690-foot cul-de-sac. Serviced by on-site wells and septics. Water is collected in roadside ditches, treated, infiltrated, and contained in an infiltration basin. Basically, the south part of the project. The project includes construction of a 30,000 gallon system in the cul-de-sac. A conservation subdivision, so we are proposing 42.3 acres of open space where 29.44 is required. As previously discussed, access to the open space is via access lane lot 6 and 7. Yeah. So we have access to the open space for pedestrian access through between lots 6 and 7. And it basically connects to the existing Woods Road that crosses back to the open space. A variance was granted to allow the existing house to remain in the conservation subdivision by the ZBA. The application includes 0 wetland impact. We do have 2,975 square feet of wetland buffer impact. The buffer impacts are required for the construction of the infiltration basin and the outlet. So we do have a section 9.6 special permit application included in the package. In addition, the applicant had the entrance at Meadowbrook reviewed by a traffic engineer at the suggestion of the board. There were 3 options for the traffic at the intersection. The preferred option, or I forget how he indicated, but it was the stop at the new road. So Meadowbrook remain as it is, unstopped, and have the new road have the stop sign. We did look at 2 other options, and I think all of them are acceptable. It's kind of a preference thing, I guess, and depends on if the town, the board, the road agent, we're amenable to any of them. In addition, the applicant did have a wildlife assessment report completed by GZA Geoenvironmental. Including that, they provided some recommendations for the report. Said the project did not appreciably jeopardize threatened or endangered, endangered species on site. So with that, be happy to take any questions or
Thank you.
anything the board may have.
First questions are regarding to application completeness. Questions?
I got questions on the plans and stuff.
Yep.
We can address the issue of the completeness first.
Steve, any application questions before we accept the application as complete? Everything seems to be in order. First motion would be to accept the application as complete.
I make a motion to accept application 270-2 and 3-273.49-GR-21- sub.
Motion by Jeff Brandt, second by Ron Allard. Andy M. Donna Masucci.
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard. Steve Diamond.
Diamond Eye.
Jeff Brand.
Brian, aye.
James Jennison, aye. Application accepted as complete. We want to start, Jeff? You got some questions, or do we want to do the
Address your 9/6.
9/6 first?
The whole plan.
Yeah, let's talk about the 9/6. Make sure we understand. They're asking. Hard to get apart.
Questions on the 9/6, Steve?
Maybe you can explain the drainage issues, how you need to get in the buffer.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's on sheet C3.
yeah, that's a.
Yeah, because you've got it outlined on C3. So if I'm reading the plan correctly, the impacts are where there's two impacts. They both are associated with the infiltration basin. One is on the, they're both on the west side of that infiltration basin. One on the northwest corner and one to the west of the basin itself.
Correct.
So that's, and the way this looks here, then you're not actually impacting the wetland. That
Correct. We have no wetland.
basin drain, more or less. I forget what the nomenclature is, but that it's just the corner of the basin itself and that outlet that drains into the wetland. Those are the two impacts.
Correct.
Any questions? Comments? Seems as there's no reasonable alternatives.
Yeah, won't we? Okay, now that we understand where it is, how about he can walk through 9/6, the questions with the answers, right? 9/6 is in here somewhere.
Yep. Would you like me to go through those?
Please.
So the criteria under the 9.6 is, number one, the proposed use is in keeping with the intent and purpose set forth in the zoning ordinance is permitted in the base zoning district. If the base zoning district requires a conditional use permit or special exception for the proposed use, one must have already been obtained, or if the proposed use is not listed in the table of uses or is listed but not permitted, one must already have been obtained. And the proposed use is an allowable use in the zone. Number 2 is after review of all reasonable alternatives, it is determined to be infeasible to place the proposed structure or use outside of the buffer zone. The impact is required at the proposed location due to the topographic constraints and maximization of the vegetated buffer. Number 3 is that the proposed structure or use must be set back as far as possible from the delineated edge of the wetland or surface water. Our response is the impact is restricted due to the topographic constraints again, but is limited to the degree practicable. Number 4, the appropriate erosion control measures must be in place prior to and during construction, and our response is that erosion control measures have been depicted, installed during construction, and it will be revegetated. Any disturbance to the surrounding buffer zone must be repaired and restored upon completion of the construction, and as I said, disturbances are to be revegetated after construction. And number 6 is all available mitigation measures to address changes in water quality and quantity to be implemented along with design and construction methods to minimize adverse impacts. Anticipate any adverse impacts to the water quality or quantity due to this construction, and it is for filtration treatment basin storm.
I got nothing. Anybody?
I guess my question, are you meeting the open space requirements? Because that's to back out wetlands.
Yes, we are in the open space requirements.
Deal with the 9.6 first. I think it would be appropriate before you get into application.
There were numerous endangered wildlife discussed in the other document. Were there any observations in the area of impact of the wetland buffer of any of those creatures?
No, not that I found in the report.
Yep.
Comment on the 9.6.
Pardon me? Yep. All right, no other questions from the board? We'll open public comment. Yes, questions or comments about the 9.6? Dan, come to the microphone.
Yeah, the conservation reviewed the plans, they didn't have a problem with it, and they made recommendations that they probably wouldn't want to take it over, so they made adjustments.
You got to come up to the thing to talk so you can be heard.
Dan there. Conservation reviewed this, and they didn't know, they looked at the new set of plans, the revised ones, they didn't have any input on it and stuff. And the first comment previous that they wouldn't be interested in taking over the open space. Just a homeowners association, but they did review the second set. Positive feedback on it. Thank you.
If anyone's joining us online, *6 to unmute or raise your hand or type a question into the comment bar as well. Anyone else? Seeing no hands, close public comment. The board, all set? No questions?
General observation, of course, if there was a lot or two fewer, they wouldn't have to do any wetland buffer impact, but it does seem like a reasonable effort to minimize impact given the level of development intended.
Mr. Chair, there's a phone number ending in 8239 that I think was speaking, speaking up, maybe missed public comment.
All right. If,
Reopen it.
I'll reopen public comment. If you have a comment or question, unmute.
Hello, Connor.
Yes, if you,
Hi, Connor.
state your name.
So Steve Graves, 16 Hickory Lane. I am one of the property abutters. I apologize for the late call in and comment. I was having some technical difficulties there, but I have a concern that I would like maybe just kind of addressed or answered as to the 100-foot buffer between what is now my property line and what will eventually be the property line of the new families that are moving in. Is there anything being planted in that area? And if this is covered again, I'm sorry. I just was able to join.
Yeah,
Is there
sir.
anything being planted into that area to give me a natural vegetation buffer between, you know, incoming headlights that are coming from the new development or new homeowners or whatever? Over.
Sir, that is something that, you know, we will be addressing. Right now, we're specifically open public comment on a 9.6 permit, which had to do with some disturbance of the buffer area around the wetland to accommodate the infiltration basin. We haven't started discussing the application itself yet, which is what your comment deals with the buffer. So do you have any comment at this point specific to this 9.6 application?
No, sir, and I do apologize.
That's all right. I'm just letting you know that, you know, your comment, we welcome the comment, but this isn't the time for that particular comment.
Yes, sir, not a problem. I apologize.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions in regards to the 9.6? All right, we'll close public comment again. And a motion is in order.
I make a motion to approve the 9.6 application for associated with application 270-213-273.49-GR-21.
Motion by Jeff Brand, second by Ron Allard. Andy M. Donna Masucci.
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard.
Howard, aye.
Steve Diamond.
Diamond Eye.
Jeff Brand.
Brand aye.
James Jennison, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Granted. Right, now we'll move on to,
So I know there was a question about the open space. We are providing.
Well, what is the percentage of open space?
50%.
50?
50%. Oh, no, the percent of open space is, it's 70 something, I believe, right now.
Because the minimum is 60 in that zoning district.
50 in the GR.
It's 50.
Is this in the GR?
Correct.
It's right here.
No, I know it's 50 for the GR, but I thought I didn't think we were in the, I thought we were in a residential zone, but I guess not.
residential.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, general residential. So I thought, oh, it's not neighborhood residential, it's,
General.
So we're required to provide 50%.
okay.
29, proposing 42.3 acres.
It's backing out wetlands.
Of that, 50% is upland, about 50% is wetland. So we have more than 50% upland of the 42.3 acres. that we're proposing. So we meet the requirements. But if I may, to meet the requirement, because we have excess open space over and above the required open space, we had to include portions of lots 7, 8, and 9 that are wetlands to decrease the amount of wetlands in the open space, which seems to be contrary to the requirement to the open space subdivision. Now the board, that's to meet the requirement of 50% of the open space be upland. the board has the ability per the regulations to reduce that number. So if I was sitting on the board, I'd want the wetlands protected. So by reducing these lots 7, 8, and 9, taking the wetland out of it, which would increase the percentage of wetland in the open space, you'd actually be protecting the wetland more. But we have shown that we meet the requirements of the board.
That actually makes some sense.
Huh?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
But if that were the case, then we would, we'd have to do an ad hoc waiver, right?
I don't even think it's a waiver. It's 6.2.23.
Planning board may allow for a smaller or large percentage if it determines by doing so that the proposed development will better achieve the objectives.
Where are you at, Ron?
6.2.2.
Page 24.
The one he was referencing, that's the right one. On page 24.
This might be a good one to look at as part of your review regulations, to say 50% of the required open space instead of 50% of the total open space.
I think it's
I have no problem with adding that to the conservation portion. I don't see how it
You have to be a waiver, right?
would negatively impact anything.
We can't. We can't waive zoning.
It's not a waiver. It says
Says that you have the right. to-
Right, so, yeah, so I'm saying, it's not a, right.
it's not a waiver or variance.
Kind of not a requirement because of the way it's written.
Suppose it.
Right, so we can allow that as just as we can just stipulate that in our notice of decision, right?
Yeah, that you're allowing
Right.
a
We're allowing,
higher amount of
right,
non-uplands that still exceeds more than 50% of the required open space.
Do you have a proposed line that
I
would,
don't, I mean, we wanted to make sure that we came back with something because this was a discussion when we came in previously. We wanted to make sure that we met the requirements of the board.
well, okay,
so that one, we could
what's a good sheet to look at?
C2A,
C2A? You've got the lots. So you're saying for lots, what, 5, 6, and 7? Or maybe even,
79.
Sorry.
which one? 7, 8, 9?
9, the big ones in the back.
So if we did something similar to what I just sketched on the plans, take that line and basically just square it off at the back of the wetlands or at the wetland line.
Well, that's what I was looking at is, yeah, why not make those lots just follow the wetland line?
Yeah, I mean, we normally give it some straight angles. So it's
Yeah,
easy
yeah,
to
yeah,
survey, but
yeah,
that's-
yeah, that's true.
I don't think it needs too much discussion, right? That seems pretty straightforward, as far as
Yeah, I'm
allowing that.
definitely
Yeah.
amenable to that.
Doesn't
I
seem
think
to
we can-
Pose any hardship there.
I think we can accommodate that.
Moving on, yield, those numbers, you took up the yield, I guess that's the first thing to start with, right? We know we got the calculations correct for the yield for the number of lots.
We actually did a regular conventional subdivision plan showing how it all worked.
Yep.
So as of the way the regulations are written, it looks like the proper thing for this board is to determine that that yield plan is accurate so that you can move forward with the number of lots.
And that's page Y.
Yep.
Y1 would be the yield plan with a conventional 11 lot subdivision. Any questions or issues with
No.
11 lot yield?
I didn't buy one.
Right up to C1D. You have a list of questions, Jeff, you want to start down, is that
Sure.
regards to this?
All right, well, just, a couple of notes that, the plan had, which was fixing the approval block cover sheet. And also identifying the type of permit, that it's a subdivision. And
Wrong town on it.
I'm coming to that.
Oh, that's
Also,
that's part of that same note.
oh, I see. Well, also, it's this type of permit, it's talking about the town of Epping.
Oh. But it also says site approval, not subdivision.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
John, do we need to have a vote on the yield plan?
I don't think
We
you need
have
an
it.
official vote, but if you have a consensus, I
Okay.
think that was.
Yeah,
All right,
I have no problem.
all right, me too. I just saw that note in the,
Steve, any objection?
Okay.
He's good.
all right, sorry.
All right, so, yep, I had that. All right, you already answered. We already talked about the open space. There's no street lighting shown, so will there be any street lighting?
We're not proposing any.
Okay. We can, at some point, what's that?
Do we have lighting? Don't we?
No, we don't.
No?
No, because they're gonna be single-family houses, no street lighting, so therefore.
It's subdivision, not site review.
It's sub-
Lighting is in site review.
This kind of ties in with your discussion about what are we gonna do with the intersection? Because the road agent had made a comment about having a 15-inch culvert where the outlet of the development is going to intersect with Meadowbrook. Although looking at the plans, the slopes, it's not clear to me, that there's a ditch line. It's coming off the road and it looks like you're draining with a drain off into the infiltration.
Yeah, I think he's more concerned with the actual Meadowbrook drainage, because it does come around, and we should have included it, but there's a ditch line
All
that
right.
comes around the corner.
Okay, so there
Have
will
no-
have to be a culvert underneath that?
Correct,
All right,
at the entrance.
and so you're going to address that?
We'll address that.
All right. And also the cuts that are coming into.
Yep.
whatever riprap might be required to ensure that drain stays clear. The, one of the requirements for this is, and I know it's early, but as part of this whole application process, it's to present the draft homeowner documents. These will be single-family homes, correct?
Correct,
Okay. There's going to be a homeowners association.
correct.
Okay, well, and in addition, and as an adjunct to that, we also have to, what is the plan for access to the open space? Is it going to be residents only, which is allowed under the regulations, or it's going to be town access? What's the plan?
Our intent is to provide residents only, so a private open space, if you would. there at times becomes an issue if you have people walking in other people's backyards or what they consider their backyards. And these are smaller lots because it is a conservation subdivision. So we prefer to keep it just to the people that are in the or in the cul-de-sac.
Right, well, because if it were open space opening to people outside of that, then, you know, the answer to that question, because we've had this before, is then there would be, you know, a right of way between a couple of lots that would allow access. However, looking at this lot, basically the open space is all water, so mostly water.
Yeah, there are some pieces of upland, but we did leave access between lots 6 and 7 for like, if you say like lot 2 wanted to walk up the road and access.
Okay. But the requirements are that we are going to have to see, and who's going to maintain ownership of the owner space? Is it the current owners or is it going to be to the association?
The homeowners association will own the open space.
So those are all details that need to be answered as part of this. I think there were maybe some other planner comments here.
Planner comments, wetland setbacks, 50-foot, 100-foot prime, minimum open space size and upland requirements are exceeded, 6.2.6 perimeter buffers, 100-foot visual screening from house lots and road with existing screening or plantings. We can address that one for Mr. Graves that was joining us online. He was asking about buffers behind. He is in the lot behind number 3, it looks like, lot 3 area. My understanding is that lot's been cut substantially and might be pretty well cleared. And he was, I think his question, and I'll let him ask again when we get to that, but will there be additional planting or vegetation in that area?
Will it be addressed as a deed restriction as part of the open space that it remains in its natural state, you know, going forward?
Absolutely.
And before you get into your answer, I believe we talked about the need for a landscape plan. I haven't been able to find it so far in there. Could you direct me, please?
There is no landscape plan included in the package.
Are you planning to have one?
At the request of the board, we will. I mean, if you look at the conservation subdivision, the perimeter buffer requirements, it does indicate a visual screen from exterior roads. So the only exterior road is really, so we can put some, there are trees, I drove it a week ago, there are trees along the Meadowbrook frontage. Now, they may not be as dense as some people would, but you couldn't see the house. It sets back quite a ways. I did not check on the hickory side of it to see how dense the plantings are along that edge.
Well, the board does have the discretion to require buffer enhancement,
Correct?
so I think that's of interest to us, at least with respect to two sides.
And we can explore that further
On
with
the-
the public comment, but
Right,
Hickory.
Hickory Lane sides. On the back, you've got the brook. You're preserving it. There's not going to be any real substantial change impact there. So it would be,
Just those couple houses on Hickory.
yeah, Meadowbrook Road, and that's what is Hickory.
I don't see the road. I think it's.
Yeah, I think it's
Here.
a little cul-de-sac.
Goes down to a
Well,
cul-de-sac.
That's Hickory.
On the border with tax map 270 lot 4, that particular boundary line that goes from southeast to northeast, I guess.
There's
There's
something.
no
the board-
north arrow on this particular sheet.
Is this something the board would like pictures of, or you would like to do a site walk to see what is actually there for?
I would suggest maybe a site walk that we go look, because it's easier for everybody to, the board can judge for themselves how good a buffer is out there.
Are the property lines fairly well delineated at this time?
Or could you set
We can set
some flags?
Give us a week or two.
Yeah,
Okay.
set some flags so we can see where the buffer is.
Yep.
A lot of times after a heavy cut, your hemlock and stuff will grow in, which is actually gonna give you more of that visual buffer.
Story.
Kind of achieve.
All right. I'm another
Site
one.
632, site survey, what's,
Well, looking at that, Jamie, the last time, I believe it was this one, public comment, we had a lot of discussion about traffic at an intersection
Right.
and the potential for stop
We're,
signs.
I have that. They proposed 3 plans. Yeah, we need to discuss that too. Earlier he said, hey, we looked at it. We came up and we have a letter from a consultant that says, here's 3 different ways to address this issue. Yes, we ought to discuss that. I don't have any questions for him with respect to that. Maybe we can all take a look at that. If you want to do that now.
yeah,
Before we move on from landscaping, I interrupted you. What is your answer regarding the concerns of the abutter, regarding the vegetative buffer?
yeah, is that for Mr. Guyer?
Yes.
I think he indicated that a site walk might be appropriate so we can see for ourselves what the actual vegetative buffer is, so we can,
And I indicated that it's at the board's discretion as to whether we want to require them to add something to that buffer.
Okay, if that's the
So
answer.
until we do the site walk and take a look at it, we probably don't have a good answer to that. And we indicated that ultimately we might want a landscape plan that would cover the 2 boundaries on Meadowbrook Road and lot 270, or tax map 270, lot 4, up that boundary.
Okay, I'm fine with a site walk being the next step. Would this be a masked event?
we could recommend or ask be warned.
Although it will be outdoors and it would be easy to maintain 6-foot distance, so.
I just know in the past, it hasn't always worked out that way, that well.
There would be no enforcement mechanism. It would be an individual's choice to mask as they felt necessary.
Before we
You
discuss,
can keep your own 6-foot of distance if you have concerns.
before we jump to the intersection, Jamie, you were looking up 632.
Well, the site inventory.
Site
correct,
inventory,
yeah.
what features are most important to preserve?
They gave you that whole analysis of the animals and stuff like that. There was a pretty good sized document they presented with what they call the features.
A life assessment.
Where is that document? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't think it was in our package.
I
I
think
No,
it
it's
was-
on mine.
Okay.
It's, like I said, it's pretty good size.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It's on mine.
Look at that. See, look at the size.
Yeah, this is the package. And they did do a review of all the wildlife and any plants that would threaten or endanger.
So, yeah, but what's the answer to the question? Which features are most important to preserve?
The wetland.
Well,
It's very, and you have prime wetland on our western side, so if you're gonna preserve anything with a conservation subdivision, this is one of the best sites to do it in, because we have a really good area of upland, and then we have a really good area with wetlands and uplands that can be preserved.
Steve, did you have an opportunity to peruse that document? Do you have any questions in regard to that? Their
Not
findings?
I have not been able to peruse that as exhaustively as I perhaps should have. I was a bit surprised by the extent to which there were some species I hadn't heard of from other sites that we've looked at previously. There's some new ones like some eels and turtles and fish that I have heard of, but not heard of as an issue here.
And I think the report didn't find them. They said it was potential to be located on site. I don't believe and I didn't read the whole thing exhaustively, but my recollection is that they didn't find any endangered or threatened species while they were out there, but they did see that there was the potential for them on site.
Around that stream in the waterway, which is being protected, correct?
Correct.
John, what was your comment on 3.3 graphic and narrative site inventory? Has that been addressed?
That was the one that Marcia had on there before. The site inventory is
Yeah.
basically that
Right.
thing that you
I
got there.
understand. So it seems like that's satisfied.
Yeah, because that was the 3 section.
Right.
And I believe that his comments tonight reinforces that. So you guys feel comfortable with it because you're
Yeah.
the ones making the decision, not me.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
it seems like they did their
Yep, they did
due
their homework.
diligence.
They did.
So we moving along to the road intersection, it looks like we've.
Yep. All right, so everybody should have this, right?
And Mark Monroe's here tonight if you have any questions for the road.
You can get this done.
Don't have.
It was attached to a memorandum.
Stephen Purnell.
That's the one.
Amendment.
You want to copy that there? I can share with
That would be.
Sure. We can share. All right, so they proposed 3 different concepts here. I think what was originally proposed was concept A, which is you don't have a stop on Meadowbrook. You've got, and
A is actually stop. Let me just go.
stop on Meadowbrook, right?
Maybe easier. Yeah, A was the stop on Meadowbrook. So you're coming up Meadowbrook from Route 4, stop sign here. So the existing cul-de-sac and the remainder of Meadowbrook would be a throughway. B would be stop sign at all 3 locations, southbound Meadowbrook, westbound Meadowbrook, and the cul-de-sac. So there'd be 3 stop signs, all intersection control. And then C was the stop sign control only on the cul-de-sac. So Meadowbrook would continue to act like it is today. The stop sign would be located on the proposed roadway. And Mr. Purnall's recommendation, all 3 of them are acceptable per, standard traffic engineering. But his preference would be C, the stop sign on the proposed cul-de-sac, basically address interruption of the current flow of traffic.
I would say from previous comments, I'm leaning more towards a 3-way stop.
Yeah, so am
seems
I,
like
because
All existing residents down there want to slow the cut through traffic, even though it's not perceived as a cut through, but it seems to be actually a cut through, so.
yeah, if we,
Um,
I agree that we've got an opportunity, even though it's not directly related to this development. But now we're talking about creating an intersection in an area that the vast majority of public comments, in fact, the only public comments were that there is excessive speed.
already.
There are pedestrians on the road. And I really think that the recommended C, where they'll round out that corner, if we've already got a problem with people speeding down through a residential neighborhood, rounding out that corner, it actually would probably exacerbate that situation. So I'm not wild about C either. I like B. It's a stop. It's certainly, I can foresee that it would aggravate some people because they've got to come to a stop on Meadowbrook. But that seems like it solves 2 problems. The other thing I'm
I mean,
worried
there was
about.
comments about people missing the turn and going onto yards, so I think.
And I also agree that with the engineer's comment that concept A, you're gonna have people that are gonna miss the turn, end up in the development.
Yep.
You know, that seems problematic, or people stopping in the intersection because they're realizing they're blowing by the turn. And so I don't think, from a practicality standpoint, my opinion is concept A doesn't really work. I think it's gonna be problematic. And I'm worried that concept C is just gonna exacerbate the problems with traffic and pedestrians in that particular area. So I'm with Chair. I like concept B the best.
I think that's the road agent's feeling. What about the rest of the board?
I think I would like to hear public comment on this before. we
Well-
have a position. I know there's a lot of public comment. People
Right.
seem to be in favor of concept B. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think when
Well,
we hit him with that option, I think that was a surprise to some of the residents, and I just wonder if given some more time,
No, we're gonna, obviously, we'll get public comment, but I was just looking at what had been presented and.
and what we heard last
This is-
time, I think B is the one.
Yeah.
Just want to reinforce that.
Steve, you got any?
More stop signs, sounds good. I wonder if there's a way of indicating more clearly for people who are going north on Meadowbrook, that the main road is not the cul-de-sac, that the main road takes a sharp turn, like maybe there's a turn indicator sign is one of the things out there that it turns right, the road turns right.
Well, there could be,
What we try to do is, if you look at the angle of we try to curve it into the intersection or the curve there, and that's about as good as you can do. I mean, there can be a sign that says Meadowbrook continues, north in this instance.
If the road's lined, the curvature of the line, I don't know if that road
On
is.
this one, you had.
It's, in the picture it is, and I know they just did Malago, which was never lined before, so I don't know if
We have
they'll,
a sign here saying no outlet or something like that.
oh, yeah,
Right.
dead end.
Dead end, whatever.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, dead end sign might be helpful
All right,
to keep the traffic down from people spinning around in there.
so that takes care of that. I don't see anything else we need to discuss before we open it to public comment.
Did you have anything else on your list?
No.
All right. Board, have any other more questions before we open public comment? Open public comment, anybody in person? First, will address?
You opened it, public comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Public comment. And
Okay.
if you're joining us online, *6 to unmute, raise your hand, or just speak up, try to get you. Mr. Graves, if you're listening, you heard our comment in regards to the buffer and a site walk to see exactly what's out there for trees before we make a decision.
And that site walk would be, there would be a public notice of that, so if you wanted to participate in that site walk, you're certainly free to do so.
And Mr. Graves does have his hand up.
Yep, please, Mr. Graves, go ahead and unmute yourself. And
All right, good evening, and thank you. I apologize again for coming out.
that's quite all right.
No, that's,
Now I'm on the old team webs there. So just one thing before I get to the abutment, on the conservation, if I could request one thing, and I know you don't have to do it, but leaving it so that abutters that currently utilize that land for walking purposes and kind of touring purposes out behind there still have the ability to do that. So I know you want to keep it to the HOA, and I understand that, but if you could possibly find a way to make it so that the abutters could also, use that and benefit from that conservation land, that'd be fantastic. So onto the site walk. So yeah, it's no secret that the clear cut that went on back there was quite extensive on my end of the property. I can literally see into Anthony's home from my living room. So there is literally nothing blocking anything from a good portion of my property line. So I would invite anybody come on out, and I would gladly allow you out here and then take a look and take a walk on the property line and see what I see. Some more dense vegetation inside of that 100-foot buffer would be much appreciated. I think, like as you indicated, that the land along Meadowbrook still has quite a bit of vegetation and quite a bit of trees in there. So really, it's just the section out here that they really went to town on. So that's all I really have. So yeah, if and when you folks want to come on out, I'm more than welcome.
Great, thanks so much. We have anyone else?
Don't see anything on our end, Mr. Chair.
Seeing nothing, we'll close public comment.
With respect to his comment about not necessarily opening up the area to the public, but could abutters have access?
I'll have to look into that and see if, how we can limit it to, if we can, make sure it's not public, but, so I'll need to talk to the lawyers.
There's a little bit of liability.
Yeah.
Abutters is a clear definition.
True.
But you're still letting people that don't have partial ownership on the property, so that could create a liability for the homeowners association, and that's what he wants to check out.
Dan, I think I'm gonna let you have a.
Hand me that other.
Yes.
Dan here, speaking for the conservation. The conservation really appreciated their work to do with the homo association stuff. There is an idea about protecting it. So these people, this homo association, they're gonna protect these wetlands. And that's what the conservation is very strong feelings on. So it doesn't have to be policed. It'll be policed by the homo association, so it'd be hard allowing up this because they're abutters, but they're responsible for the wetlands. That's the conservation's concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Fail to ever put my faith in anyone to preserve or protect or not. Some homeowners don't, some homeowners do, it's hard to say. That a neighbor is not a better steward of someone else's property than the own homeowner, so that's a tough one. I think liability is probably gonna take a bigger role in it. Anything else?
No, obviously, given the drainage issues, we'd want third-party review on this.
Chief Walker said prefer a single cul-de-sac. I don't know if that's.
Well, that's what they came up with. He must have
Yep.
been looking at the
Yield plan.
yield plan. So they have a
30,000 gallon fire cistern. You've got that located somewhere, cistern to be
That's in
installed
the
and
middle of the
operational
cul-de-sac.
prior to any permits being issued. So, third-party review and continue is,
You might want to continue to your site walk if you want to set that up.
Right.
yep. Anybody have suggestions on a good day, time?
So just one question or one discussion is, so if we're gonna do a site walk, that site walk, we're looking at, in particular, the buffers. So
Vegetated
I
buffers.
wouldn't envision that would have any impact on this going to a third-party review. So,
I 100% agree.
yeah, so we could do those concurrently.
Correct.
We don't have to wait for that.
No.
Unless you want to.
No, I agree with you. I think,
I mean, you don't have to. Okay. So,
All right, site walk, anybody? Fridays are best for me.
before snow, okay.
Friday.
Please. I need a couple weeks to get actual flags out there.
Yeah.
We're backed up in survey, so.
Okay.
All right.
Fridays are good for me.
Do we need to pick a date now, right?
Yeah, 'cause you gotta get-
In time specific, because technically
Right.
it's still a hearing.
So we can't do it for a couple of weeks anyway, because we got to give public notice.
Well,
22nd.
This is public notice that you're doing.
This is public, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But public notice is what, 10
Well,
or 14
we're looking at
days?
the
24 hours.
We're looking at the 100
Is that
foot.
it?
Just a public meeting.
Right.
Because it's an extension of it.
Okay, got it. Yep,
One
yep.
particular section, really. We just got, we got to be able to identify what's his property, what's their property, as opposed to.
And
If
we
it's in-
also want to know where the buffer is, so we can stand on one side of the buffer and look across.
Because if we're in the
Look under-
developable lot,
Mr. Graves says we can get on his property and look, so.
right, but if he says his property is that wall and it's really that wall, it's a substantial difference on how many trees go in that area.
And because this is going to third-party review, that's going to take some period of time, because they have to come in with the estimate, they have to agree to it, pay for it, it goes in for review. So a couple of weeks is,
I'm just sensitive, the last sidewalk we had, we were poured.
well, yeah.
I'll bring an umbrella.
Well, if you could do something about the weather, Ron, we'd appreciate
I know
that.
Friday's gonna be great, that's why if we can, right.
Do you think October 22nd is
That would work.
reasonable?
So, yeah,
Anybody have any,
I have nothing on my,
Again?
October 22nd?
Mr. Chair, no-
I had a hockey tournament in Connecticut.
29th?
Man.
29th? What's that?
Mr. Chair, I know you're not open to the public. Stephen Graves has his hand up if you're interested.
Sure. Mr. Graves, you want to add something?
Yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know, I do know that that the folks have done a fantastic job at marking out my current property line markers. And I know for a fact that at least my property pins have been flagged. And then anything after my property pin headed towards Meadowbrook is actually completely foliaged up. So really, I don't know that you necessarily have to wait for the pins to go in. They've already got them marked from when they cut all of the timber out.
Thank you.
but they'd also be marking the 100-foot buffer.
Thank you.
Well, what about? You're talking now the 29th?
But only if Ron really wants to attend.
What about the 15th?
I mean, I don't hold
Would,
things up.
would the 15th give you enough time?
That's only a week and a half.
Yeah, that's cutting it too close.
Okay.
Sorry.
29th.
What time?
What time?
I'll be there in spirit.
No, you'll come the 29th, won't you?
What, yeah, 20th. I can do.
Yeah, 29th.
Sorry.
Time? 9,
9?
8, 7?
It's getting cold.
7 o'clock?
11.
11.
Yeah.
11.
So
All right.
thumbs up.
All right,
That's the middle of the day.
I'll probably wear my
that's
mittens.
fine.
Meeting. I gotta put that on.
Well,
Uh,
first you have to decide which of your fleet of cars you're gonna take.
11 o'clock, we're going to meet at the, is there?
Entrance to the
In the-
butt?
In the drive-through, yeah, in the drive-through
Lot?
or driveway.
There's-
Right.
Okay. So there's,
At the driveway.
It's a long driveway.
You wanna pick the one
Place
with
to park.
the
I'll
best
decide.
heater.
all right,
Okay.
so,
Use the driveway.
29th,
29th.
11 a.m., correct?
Yep, 29th at 11 a.m. on the site driveway located on Meadowbrook Road. All right, so a motion continue to the site walk on the 29th.
Okay, and then do you want to be able to discuss this buffer thing before you get the third-party review back, or you want to wait till you?
I don't think one's gonna impact the other, frankly.
No, I want to move forward as soon as possible with that
So,
third-party review.
so the third-party review, do you think it'd be ready in a month from this meeting? Because you really want to schedule your next meeting here too.
Right.
At the same time.
Right, but we're gonna have to do the sidewalk. We gotta do that.
So that'd be November 2nd.
But then we could do the November 2nd meeting, exactly.
That means you're gonna have to get the estimate over to them. You're gonna have to get it agreed to and get the plans over to them ASAP.
That's why I was asking, would that be enough time to get that back? But
I don't know how quickly they work really, so I have,
I've been working with them about getting stuff done with Brock's, but that's a little more complicated.
Yeah,
for them
that's
to
much
iron out
more
to get this stuff than this one here is.
What's their typical review on a project this size?
We haven't dealt with them enough to totally know.
Okay,
Who are you using now?
CMA.
CMA?
Any experience?
Yes.
Think we'll get it done?
Oh,
But not only,
I don't know what their schedule's like.
not only have they got to get their review done, but then they got to get the results to
Comments.
him and comments so they can go back and forth. I mean, we can continue it.
You want to do the 16th of
seven-
November?
You want to save your second
you
meeting
wanna
for
save-
zoning.
We're
Still
probably
doing
gonna,
that? Well, then let's
We'll
try and
need that.
let's squeeze it into the second then.
and if not, then we'll delay it to the first meeting in
Yeah,
December.
Can ask for a continuance.
So we'll move it to the
All right.
second.
So 11/2.
11/2. All right. So a motion to continue.
Just to make it totally clear, all you're really caring about from CMA is the drainage, correct?
Right, because they're gonna need,
Because the rest of the regulations you guys feel you got down, so we just want the drainage.
okay.
I just want to make sure they know clearly what their scope is before we start.
I'll make a motion to continue to site walk on the 29th and regular meeting on November 2nd for application 270 lot 2 and 3 and 273 lot 49.
I'll second it.
Motion by James Jennison, seconded by Jeff Brand. Andy M.
Yeah, mine.
Donna Masucci,
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard, Diamond,
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand,
Very nice.
James Jennison, us. See you on the 29th.
Thank you very much.
I gotta put that in there.
That's why I just.
My phone turns a long way.
One of the work.
Oh,
Turn the ring.
by the way, so we opened things for public comment, and Ron, you were waiting to hear if there was any public comment, but you know, we didn't discuss to give them an idea of which of these three-way, the road agent indicated the concept B would be the type of thing he was looking for. I already stated my opinion, Jamie stated his.
I agree with you, but.
Andrew, do you have an opinion?
B's fine.
B, Donna,
B,
Steve?
yeah, B.
Steve,
Sure.
did you have an opinion on which one of these?
PB fine.
Yep. he was
I
big.
think when they,
Yeah,
it's kind of
all right.
closed, so they really shouldn't have one discussion, but I
Right.
believe that was the direction they left with.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make it clear that that's what we were thinking.
243-6-GR, request by applicant Southeast Land Trust to create a small winter overflow parking lot on a small former log land along the Stonehouse Pond access road. Map 243, lots are 4 acres. You doing?
How are you?
Hey, y'all. So basically Stonehouse Forest and Stonehouse Pond combined is about 1,800 acres. We have a parking lot on Berry Hill Road. We have 2 parking lots down Stonehouse Road, Stonehouse Pond. We have another parking lot on 9202, about 2 miles up the road from that. Police chief and the fire chief requested Southeast Land Trust to put a winter parking lot in along the road to get people off 202 from a safety point of view. So from an orientation standpoint, in your packet, you have this, and for you guys, it's good, kind of goes right there. And we're just gonna try to put a parking lot next to the road, using the state access on our, so the state actually owns the road into Stonehouse, and then we own the land around. So the purpose of the winter parking lot is threefold: safety, for public surface, and for emergency access. The state takes their gate usually in the winter and closes it, which is about 150 to 200 feet inside off of 202. So there's an old log landing in that red rhombus, for lack of a better way to say it, I guess, what it is. And so what we propose to do is go ahead and about 75 feet off of the highway, put one entrance in the corner of that rhombus, and then put the exit of the parking lot actually 100 feet down.
This is before the gate.
This is before the gate. So what this would allow would be for cross-country skiers, and snowshoers and ice climbers. Sorry, I was going like ice climbers to get in there and not park on the highway. So I guess this has been in the works since 2017. Was the original letter from the state. I came in 2019 and started helping put the new trails in at Stonehouse Forest, and I helped with the two other parking lots, so the two new ones. So that's the general idea. And since there's not too many trees there, what we're going to do is cut the ones that are in the way of the parking lot down and then chip them in place, use that as fill, and then bring in the appropriate amount of crushed stone, 3/4 crushed stone, and then just gently slope the parking lot back to the road and not affect the drainage any. So basically there is no significant change in topography or drainage by putting the parking lot where we plan to put the parking lot next to the road. And we are outside the wetland zone there. So that's the basic idea, and I was just see if you guys had any questions.
You, questions from the board?
You probably should address the waivers. I put in that package on the last parking lot you guys did, showing how stuff that was in section 3, section 4. Some of the waivers we never with you. And that you accept that as a complete application, but technically it doesn't meet section 3 and section 4. So to keep everything clean, you guys should be waiving those requirements before you get into a whole discussion on the parking lot, if that's the route you want to take.
Now, the waivers, John,
It's basically on both sections. He's not giving you any design of the parking lot. There's no survey plan showing all the stuff, which is all the stuff that if you go to 3 and 4 in your site review regulations, all that stuff is required.
I gave a basic thing.
Except this is a minor, so we have discretion, right?
Right, but you would still technically have to waive those sections.
Yeah.
Because they're in the regulations.
John, think we have to waive as well.
Paving's not, well, yeah, I think it's something that, I think it talks about the detailed construction of what is in 3 and part of it's in 4. That's why you have to really waive sections. If you open your zoning up and you'll see it, it's all the detailed stuff that's required on plan for a parking lot.
Zoning? You mean site plan?
Site plan, yeah, I'm sorry. I said.
There is a drawing,
Right, existing conditions and
That stuff. So existing stuff. But you don't have those particular plans, but if this type of presentation, you guys accepted on the last one, and that's what they wanted to bring forward again, because they're trying to just get some parking for recreational purposes, and it's not a commercial type thing.
Yeah, we didn't require paving last time, obviously. and
No.
We wouldn't require it again, but I think we'd have to waive that, wouldn't we?
Yes, exactly. You would have to waive almost everything in section 3 and almost every section 4 in order to say that because of what your regulations are.
Well, yeah, so we can just make a motion to accept, to waive sections 3 and 4 with respect to the application submittal, which the board considers as complete.
Correct, yeah. So, yeah,
We can do that.
but that, in that way, that vote would be
Yep.
clean, so that.
That would be
you know,
clean. Yep, no, got it.
I do have one question though, in the letter from Fishing.
Sir.
Find it, oh, there it is. The approval letter, they specifically say they will not, no plowing. Do you view that as?
No plowing of their land. So we can plow.
That does not plow the road in the wintertime.
Yeah, but
Do you think they're saying they don't want any plowing of that road, or they think they're saying they won't do it?
they won't do it.
I read that, I interpreted it as he did, that they're just saying,
First, I
we don't
interpreted it
plow
other
the
way, but
road.
As I thought about it, I think it means the other thing, so.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's all right.
and we plan to plow the parking lot.
I saw that, but we're going with that.
Yeah. Otherwise, then if you're gonna provide a winter parking lot and you don't plow it,
I like that. Snowshoeing.
Yeah, but they got to park on the road to do that.
there you go.
Got a parking lot.
Before we move on, a waiver, do anybody have questions in regards to
Yes.
3? We're going to waive. Steve?
Oh, well, I have some general questions. If this is the
Let's,
right moment, not
hi,
about the
Steve.
waiver. Hi.
All right, do you have any
Uh,
objections, Steve, to a waiver?
No.
Anybody else? All right, I make a motion that we waive the submittal requirements of site plan review regulations, sections 3 and 4, and accept the materials submitted as part of application 243-6-GR/HCO-21.
Second, I want to read that little language.
And, oh, yes, and as not granting the waiver would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Second.
Motion by Jeff Brandt, second by Ron Allard. Andy M.
Andy and I.
Donna Masucci.
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard.
Al and I.
Steve Diamond.
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand.
Brand I.
James Jennison, aye. Waiver granted. All right, Steve, moving on to your questions.
Accept the application is complete, so you
Yeah.
can have your discussion.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. I make a motion to accept application 243-6-GR/HCO-21 as complete.
Second.
Motion by Jeff Brand, second by Ron Allard. Andy M.
Andy, am I?
Donna Masucci.
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard.
Al and I.
Steve Diamond.
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand.
Brand I.
James Jennison, aye. Application accepted as complete. Now, Steve, your questions.
Yes, thanks. You already answered the who plows question. That's done. You mentioned use of wood chips. That's great. Just keep in mind they'll rot down, so allow for a little bit more depth for that. And I noticed, or I remember from last time I was on that road, that the water table is rather close to the elevation of the road. Given that it's going to be plowed in the winter and the tendency for dirt to be moved by plowing, I wonder if it would be a good idea to pave some or all of this, especially maybe the low points. And from the graphic, the drawing you did of the parking area, it shows that there's a traffic pattern that's circular. That's great. How is that going to be marked? How will people know that?
Well, there'll be a mark for an exit and entrance, and then we'll have rocks, and we're not you see where the trees are, we're not taking those trees out, so we'll actually have rocks that designate where people park, and then we'll have an exit designated with signs.
Now,
We'll have some arrows too, that we can do the arrows. That would be easy.
now, is a road fishing game or is a parking area fishing game is property as well?
I didn't understand what you asked.
I know the road is fishing game.
The road is fishing game and the parking area is the Southeast Land Trust land. Yeah. Our land starts at the road. So they control the access, or they own and control the access in. And then we have the land around the pond and actually down to the pond, and they have just that parking area and about
I was just
maybe
concerned,
200.
because they say no cutting of trees 4 inches or more in diameter, and I drove down there, and that parking area, it's definitely got trees that are above that, but if that's your property, it doesn't apply.
Yeah. Doesn't apply.
What about my concern that I raised about wet spots and the potential for dirt to be removed that would make the road even wetter in the spring and rainy parts of the summer?
So if we take the topography of the slant of the parking lot itself and slant it in a way so that the water comes off of it into an area where it's received and follows the natural grading, that shouldn't be a problem. The road itself, needs a lot of work, and we can't, we don't have any control over that. So, keeping the drainage off the road, and as far as the snow goes, probably putting the snow towards the east of the parking lot so it stays up on the topography. So in other words, enter and then push the snow across the parking lot from west to east, and then the snow will slowly in a hill form, it will slowly melt and go into the ground from that standpoint, and won't be on the road itself. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I guess my concern is mostly about the road itself off of 202. And it sounds like you don't have jurisdiction to, for instance, add more stone to the road or otherwise correct for any deficiencies that it has.
Now the state owns it.
No, the state, the Department of Transportation and the Fish and Game Department own the road. Yep.
Is that apron paved? Do we know?
That apron is not paved, and we asked if we could pave it, and they said no.
Just as far as now that you're going to be plowing that portion, is that going to be an issue? Plowing?
We can add material to the front, rough sawn. I'm not running the rough sawn, the 3/4 that makes it smooth into there. And we have put crushed gravel into the front of that before at our own expense.
This section is not too bad. It gets worse when you go down.
Yeah,
But if it's not currently plowed off Route 9 in the winter now, right?
that's true.
Plowed off Route 9. Now you're going to start plowing from Route 9 onto that dirt road in and out. Is it going to degrade the road edge on Route 9 and become an issue?
I think it's as degraded as it's going to be. We're going to add pack, and we're going to pack it down. So I think it will help, if anything.
I did put there that they would need a state driveway permit. If the state doesn't require one, we get a letter from the state saying they have no issue. So therefore, where it's a state road, abutting a state road, it's up to the state to determine what they want to do on that road.
Yeah, I looked into
That
that.
letter from the state is what I'm kind of looking for. As part of that draft management decision.
Yeah, I looked into that, and they said,
We want something right.
if you guys would like it, it's not part of our jurisdiction, or they didn't require it because the parking lot is actually down off the road.
We've had some subdivisions come in that were down on a town road for a little ways, and the state still had comments and wanted upgrades because it was so close to their intersection on the road.
I certainly can get that done for you if you'd like to see that before we start, or we'd open it up.
Well, as a reminder, this is state property, and they have said, yes, you can do it, so.
Well, that's what we'd want, is that letter from the state
Yeah.
as part of that,
They already had that.
because it is the access to this parking.
Okay. Any other question?
Any other questions? Steve, did you feel you were sufficiently answered?
I think so, yes, thanks.
So the notes that are in there as part of the draft notice of decision were basically the same ones I took off the ones that were done over on Mary Hill Road. So I don't know if you want all those same conditions, so you guys can go through them and determine if you want to keep them or if you want to change some of them. One of them on Mary Hill Road was having the trees cut so you can see the parking lot from the road, where this one's farther down. I'm assuming you don't want that as part of the notice. And I thought that it was appropriate for you guys to make that decision.
Yeah, we also said that they were gonna, pave the apron, which isn't gonna happen.
That's
The
why I'm
tree
saying we gotta
cutting.
go through and knock out what you want to knock out. I just
I-
haven't copied what you had from the last time you did one of these.
Yeah, I think leaving the trees in on the perimeter makes sense.
I didn't see,
So
paving.
let's
Driving
attach
down
to
this
the
road,
back.
you know
So
what-
do away with
This
these.
one.
So, yeah, so they're up here.
I
So,
didn't see paving on that one.
no, it's not,
Okay.
because, and they can't, because it's
Right.
a state, a state owns this road, so that, there don't seem to be any other conditions, precedents that we set for Mary Hill that are applicable to this. The ones that are transferred over to the draft notice of decision are appropriate for this particular circumstance.
So, all right, well, I will read those if anybody has any issues. We're gonna cross out, we're gonna get rid of the tree cutting, correct, B? With that,
Do we need to note the waiver on the notice of decision? Don't we?
Add them in there.
Right.
I can put that in as like number 4 or something.
Number
Yeah,
4.
Number 4.
All right. This is to inform you that the Barrington Planning Board on its October 5th, 2021 meeting has conditionally approved your application reference above. All the precedent conditions below must be met by the applicant at the expense of the applicant prior to the plans being certified by the planning board. Do we open public comment?
Oh, I don't think you did. You probably
Yeah,
No.
I'll pause real
You got
quick.
carried away with
Do
this.
that. I'm going to open public comment. Dan, please, thank you.
Dan, the conservation review didn't have any issues. And I'm glad the board identified, he said state, make it transparent. Fish and game and the state are two different animals, and they don't always communicate. So there could be, should have asked for a letter from the state. Is understanding. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Dan. Does anybody else that has questions or comments? If you're online joining us, we only have those two. Nobody out there? All right. Along that, we'll close public comment and I'll continue where I left off. All the precedent conditions below must be met by the applicant at the expense of the applicant prior to the plans being certified by the planning board. Certification of the plans is required prior to commencement of any site work or recording of any plans. Once these precedent conditions are met and the plans are certified, approval is considered as final. Please note if all the precedent conditions are not met within 6 calendar months to the day by April 5th, 2021, the board's approval will be considered to have lapsed unless a mutually agreed upon extension has been granted by the board. Conditions precedents. Add the following plan note. Add state driveway permit number 2 plan if required. Signage.
Or can we on that, or a letter from the state saying it's not required, just so we got some kind of documentation that we covered our butt with the state.
Or letter from state indicating a driveway permit is not required. Signage that states the property is closed after sunset. Parking area will have a kiosk with map and property information. Erosion control methods must be in place prior to disturbance of the site. Gates to all parking areas are to be keyed alike.
Is there closing gates for this?
There won't be a gate for the parking lot. Doesn't make any sense.
We'll strike F. Place a no parking emergency vehicle access gates.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Well, if you had a gate, you don't want someone to park in front of the gate. They can get the
You
gate.
can take F and G out because there's
Yep.
no gate.
We'll get rid of F and G. Any outstanding fee shall be paid to the town. Prior to obtaining board signature, the applicant shall submit. Do we need to do that?
Because what will, basically their application is going to be what would be signed and approved as part of the notice of decision because there's technically no official plan.
All right.
We could use the sketch you did with the location and call that a plan that you can sign.
All right, so we'll strike number 3. Waivers granted for section 3 and 4 of site.
Yep.
Site review. General and subsequent conditions where no active and substantial work required under this approval has commenced upon the site within 2 years from the date the plan is signed, this approval shall expire. An extension not to exceed 1 year may be granted by majority vote of the board so long as it is applied for at least 30 days prior to the expiration date. The board may grant only one such extension for any proposed site plan. All other plans must be submitted to the board for review to ensure compliance with these and other town ordinances. Active and substantial work is defined in this section as being the expenditure of at least 25% of the infrastructure improvements required on this approval. Infrastructure shall mean in this instance the construction of roads, storm drains, and improvements indicated on the site plan, RSA 674-39. The applicant shall note.
Number two, because they're not showing exactly what's going to be inspected to be done, it's kind of hard to do an occupancy permit for that. So number two, like I said, just carbon copy what was there from the one from Mary Hill.
Do you want any?
I'm just asking you, because
Yeah.
if there's no actual plan design, I'm going to inspect what to give a CO.
Completion? No CO?
I could say, yeah, there's a completion of a parking lot, even if there's no standard, we could leave it there.
Well,
Okay.
is
I like
there, are they
Jeff,
gonna
was it
need a certificate of occupancy or not?
That's up to you. That's the reason why I brought it up on number two. But this is what was written as part of the one on Mary Hill Road. So I put it in there. So technically, where they're just gonna have parking and they're designing it and building it.
Except they are saying that they're gonna do things like put signage up.
I think we should leave
Leave it in there.
the
Yeah.
applicant shall notify the town when improvements are completed in order to receive a certificate of use.
It makes
Yeah.
there's no erosion damage
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
You can just have eyes on it.
And the sign in the kiosk, we've already talked about the permits for those because that comes to my office.
Right.
Yeah.
Erosion damage, stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Motion is in order.
I make a motion to conditionally approve application 243-6-GR-HCO-21 in accordance with the amended draft notice of decision.
Second.
Motion by Jeff Brand, seconded by Ron Allard. Andy M.
Any aye?
Don Masucci.
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard.
Allard, aye.
Steve Diamond.
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand.
Very nice.
Jennison, aye. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Let you guys know it's done.
Thank you so much. I need 2 minutes, not 5. We can do
Well,
2 because,
That much. I need
well,
four.
sometimes the 5, 3 minutes of talking, 2 minutes of bathroom use.
Tell them to.
Take whatever I need. I don't do
That's-
shit.
Up there, if you want, I think they're gonna take a quick break in.
One of these ours?
This is just for the public. Thank you. 5 probably?
This is Buddy's packet.
It was what was sent out like last.
That's just the public case.
Do you have one? Two-way. You can tell Terry. I've submitted this to court.
And then first final.
Oh, okay, it's filed.
Okay.
There's a bunch of,
Yeah, so I'll just open all of them.
okay.
And then how we'll set it up is you can just scan through. It'll just be, they'll all be open.
Okay.
Whatever you see here, what they'll see on the screen and what they'll see on the recording for the meeting.
Okay.
We're live. Moving on to number 5. One second. That's my agenda. Number 5, 251-63-RC-21-SR. Stephen Cam, Lindsay, request for applicant Robert Russell, 2A Tactical LLC for site review and waivers to construct a 6,000 square foot, 2-story building with 11,000 plus square foot of used space. Welcome.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Scott Frankowitz from New Hampshire Land Consultants, here representing 2A Tactical. Along with me is Dwayne from Unified Builders, and in the audience, we have Dan from Unified Builders and Scott from 2A Tactical. Like I said, we're here representing a site plan for 2A Tactical. We came in August, preliminary meeting with the board. The plan, the layout hasn't really changed. There's some stuff I'll talk about at the end of my presentation that is probably going to end up changing, but what we're presenting at the conceptual hearing is pretty much the entire package that we ended up submitting. The professionals involved with this project is Unified Builders as well as New Hampshire Land Consultants. Bernie Temple as a professional engineer, Team Engineering with structural engineers on the building. SW Cole was geotech engineers for borings and stuff for the foundations. Barrington Mulch and Flower prepared a landscape plan, which I'll show you, and we incorporated into our plan set as well. Steve Pernaud did a traffic study on the site, and we'll be talking about that. There's a waiver I'm going to request on type of traffic study that he prepared. Fraggle Rock Environmental was wetland scientist, and then the full lighting design was done by Sharon Lighting. And you'll see that, I'll walk that through the plan set, come to lighting design. The last one was All In Media of Northwood did the site and building renderings. So currently 2A Tactical is a local business that's located on 99 Tolan Road, and they're in front of the zoning board right now, as well as obviously in front of you. He has outgrown his space and he's looking to his business, this new, modern, very nice building. So the existing conditions, I'll go to the first page of the plan set, or the second page after the cover. This is the existing conditions. It fronts on 125 and along Bumford Road. Bumford Road is a Class 6 road, but it's maintained by Mr. Lindsay currently. There is an agreement that I believe I submitted with Mr. Lindsay and Rob, the owner of 2A Tactical, for a maintenance agreement on that road, if this was to get approved. The property is tax map 251, lot 63, zoned regional commercial, and it's 8.9 acres of vacant land. It has 759 feet of road frontage on Bumford Road, just over 1,000 feet of frontage on 125. Should be reversed. There is about 6 acres of upland on the property. The lot is forested and mixed up and wet. Wetlands delineated by Damon Burke of Fraggle Rock Environmental of Stratford. Now I'll go to the proposed layout. It's the same layout that we presented back in August. We just, of course, beefed up the plan set, and all the requirements are in the plan set. So what we're proposing is to develop a retail, manufacturing, educational facility, a 6,000 square foot footprint with a total usable space of just over 11,000 square feet. The required parking and storage for, and we're proposing the required parking and fenced storage area, which is this back area where my cursor is. It's a concrete pad. It will have up to 8 containers. One of those containers, which is this bigger one, is an ATF container that we talked about preliminary meeting. The square that's around ends of the container is like a canopy, so they can access that during the winter and keep the snow out of there. So then they'll have storage down there first. Now move on to the parking traffic. layout. There's 29 spaces required for this site. We're proposing 41 spaces. There's 11 spaces along the front of the building. There's 4 handicap spaces where we're required to only have 2. The owner wanted more because disabled veterans. For those. Along the north side of the building, there's 4 spaces. And then there's another 26 along this side and then throughout this island. One of the other aspects of the site is the loading area, which is where my cursor is now. These trucks will come in from 125 down into here, back up here, load. No loading dock, it's surface level, so their truck have the thing that goes down and they'd unload it like that. There's a dumpster located on the north side of the property, right here, and that will be fenced and shielded as usual. Site will have an entrance on Bumford Road, as well as one. We're showing an exit only north, right here, and that'll be that will be more of a discussion I'll have at the end of the plan set. That talking with the road agent and DOT over the last month or so, things have changed, and they may want something different. I'll move on to the drainage. It's a pretty simple drainage design. It all slopes into the site. The building is actually lower than 125. The rainwater will be collected on the upper side of the road. This side will be collected into a catch basin. And then another catch basin, and then this north side of the parking lot will be collected in this catch basin, which will all be transported down to a detention pond, infiltration pond. First go into a sediment forebay, and then it will go into an infiltration pond. That infiltration pond is equipped with a multi-stage discharge structure, and it will discharge out and towards the wetlands. And there's no peak, our drainage study shows there is no peak of discharge, stormwater. And then the landscaping, which Barrington Flower and Mulch had involved with their plan and put it in our plan set. Now, this is showing a bunch of red maples. There's red maple, sugar maples, hemlock, birch, and there's a bunch of flower beds spread around to meet your regulations. And this is their rendering of the landscape. As it showed on our plans, the sugar maples, red maples along the front, some hemlocks on the ends, some flower beds on the ends. And then as you go around, some other various plants around the parking lot. One of the aspects of the landscape is a buffer. There is a residential home to the north of this property. There's a substantial distance from where this site and parking lot and everything will be to that home. So there's a substantial buffer, a lot of mature trees that will remain. Then I'll move on to the lighting design. All the lighting prepared by Sharon Lighting, and there's 4 pole lights, 2 in this parking lot, 1 on the exit, 1 on the entrance, and then there's a bunch of wall mounts around the building, and then this path going down to the storage facility are those 3.5, 4 foot high bollard lights to light up the walkway enough for them to go down during winter hours and stuff, especially when they're this back storage facility or area will have lights on each corner to light up the area. And I believe there's going to be some lighting underneath the canopy to light up the entrance to the.
That's correct. Yeah.
To the storage containers. So I'll move on to the changes since we submitted. We submitted to DOT. We submitted to DOT over the summer because DOT permits typically the longest one. And we got started and we got some comments back from DOT and we got comments from the local road agent. And there was discussion on Bumford Road and the current condition and what it should be. And if we're adding traffic to it, what should happen. So we went back and we did a concept and we sent it to the town and to the road agent, and we sent a preliminary one to DOT, but they haven't seen the full plan, so well on that. What we're proposing or potentially proposing, and we do have a meeting with the select board on the 18th to discuss this as well, because the town of Barrington has to be involved with this highway or the reconfiguration of this entrance. So one of the concerns is the truck traffic that goes in and out of the pit, and if we're adding traffic into Bumford Road, that there'd be too many conflicts. The road agent was worried that it just increases the potential for accidents. So what we went back to the board on our access points and came up with an north and south turn coming out of Bumford Road and an N. We would reloam and seed this area and this area. As you know now, probably there's a Y intersection there. I think it was developed because of the trucks coming out turning north. We wanted to make that a wide enough sweep for them. One of the aspects is there's a telephone pole right there where we're trying to come out to make it 90 degrees to 125. That pole will have to be relocated, and then there's a large stone with Barrington sand and gravel on it that will be relocated to probably one of these areas on the side. And then as we go north on the site, the access to the site, we originally had, and we just presented, was a turn north only on that entrance. What we're proposing, and Steve Pernaugh also said thought this was a good idea, is to make it a 90-degree intersection with 125 and make it in and out, north and south, going out and going in. And that will probably draw most of the car traffic and people going to the store other than deliveries. There was talk about potentially eliminating this, but really we need to have that for truck deliveries and any trucks to get in here and get out easily. And like I said, we're meeting with the Board of Selectmen on the 18th. I have reached out to DOT, and after tonight, I will probably send this plan to Jim Hewitt at District 6 to start that conversation with him. As I said, we submitted back, I think it was in July or August, a DOT permit. He sent us some comments, and one of his comments right out of the gate was that this Bumford Road had to become a T intersection, not Y like it is right now, if we were going to add traffic to it. Which of course, there's no way not to add traffic to it with access there.
What's the distance between the proposed drive and Bumford Road?
Where we had it was here, and that was 500 feet, and we're staying on this side of this utility pole right here. We're coming on the proposed is coming out right here. So I'd say we're about 450.
I know you're responding to input, but go back to the one. Why would you eliminate that sweep into the road from, if you're going north, you have kind of a nice angle there right now, so you don't have to slow down quite as much on 125. Why is eliminating that better?
The one turn north only?
No, down there.
Yeah, Bumford Road, because
Bumford
the
Road.
state wants 90-degree intersections for all roads.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them in town. I actually live on one of them in town that's a off ramp like that, and cars do. I don't know about this one, but I imagine they don't slow down.
If you're leaving
But
the
if you-
lot, you're not,
And there's a
getting good
reason.
sight line
I'm just
down the
saying,
road.
if you're going north and you're coming in.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah,
eliminating
well,
that.
that's
Pulling out
fine,
onto
but
You're forcing them to make a hard turn now. They have to slow down, make a hard turn.
well,
Whereas before you didn't really require that.
true, but it's cars coming out onto the
Right.
road. I mean, look at 155 intersecting with 9. You know, it comes out, and I always go so that I can see both ways. If not, you got the pillars of, my truck cab of my car, which are blocking my vision of what's coming around the corner on 9.
And I would say I defer to road science as opposed to opinion in those matters.
Well,
Because it's a
not
state
me.
road. I mean,
State has.
Yeah, so
that-
State has.
right. I mean, we can all
It
say,
does,
I
it
want,
blocks your vision.
Yep.
And
I agree with it, but
I mean, the
there's nothing
statistics
to do with
say
it.
you might
that
like a rotary there,
intersections
but-
that come in an angle have more accidents than
Yep.
90-degree intersections.
I think you get a clearer line of sight is the
Right.
thinking, if I understand it, but.
That's exactly what he's.
And that location right there is right at the top of the rise.
Right.
500 feet down, I think your lines of sight are
we,
good.
My only question, yeah, I mean, you got trucks, they're going in and out of the pit, they're going in and out of 2A tactical, so, you know, those turning radiuses and the distances in before you start making any bends or turning the driveway, you gotta be sufficient
Mhm.
for a 50-foot, you know, plus trailer to get around those corners.
It just seems.
And
That was exactly my point, actually. So my main concern, given how big the trucks might be with the sand pit and so forth, to make sure they could totally not end up in the wrong lane of traffic on 125.
Let's, before we go down that road too far, we
Right.
interrupted. Are you done your presentation? We can.
I got just a little bit more.
Let's let you finish up. We'll talk about the application and then move on to specifics.
Then within the plan set, after this is the sightline distance, and then after that says details. We do have two permits, which is the highway access permit and then the septic design for the actual building we'll have to have. We are asking for two waivers. One is a waiver from a full traffic report. We did submit a short traffic report per Steve Perna. He looked at the regulations and if we go by the letter of regulations, the square footage puts us into a full traffic report. I think it's 10,000 square feet, 11, but the traffic count that he came up with doesn't bump us up. So he thinks that the short one that we submitted, which is actually pretty substantial, it's a pretty good report. I guess he has to do a lot more field work for a report. Didn't think it was justified, so we're asking for a waiver for that. And then we're asking for a waiver as suggested by Mr. Brand, was the legends on sheets 9 through 19, they're detail sheets and profile sheets, and really no legend to put on those, so we're asking for a waiver.
Might better go.
Huh?
Yeah, that's 50%, so we're getting somewhere.
We're working on the regulations, so we're gonna fix that.
There's other things I could share, but I think that's good for now.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have questions and get into the weeds.
Well, are these, so these are renderings submitted as part of your application and plan?
Yes, we submitted renderings.
Okay.
In regards to the application, all information gathered to.
Any of issues with
Application is
the, yeah.
complete. Do you have questions?
Yeah, I have,
Application submittal?
well, no, I am gonna have some issues with the illumination, meeting the requirements, but, with respect to the package, no.
Anyone else? Nope. John, you don't have any submittal issues?
No, all the stuff that's required by the regulations is there. There's a few things, like Jeff said, that need to be talked about. And that.
So motion to accept the application is complete.
Oh, come on. I'm trying to find the application.
All right, I'll do it. I make a motion, we accept application 251-53-RC-21-SR.
I second.
Motion by Ron Allard, second by Jeff Brand. Andy M.
Andy, I'm.
Yeah,
Ron Allard,
All right.
Steve Diamond,
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand,
Brian, I
James Jennison, I. Application
here it
accepted
is.
is complete.
find this cover sheet.
Let's address the waivers.
You want to discuss the application so you can have an idea of what the traffic's going to be before you
Yes.
decide on that waiver, because that discussion is going to give you your answers to whether or not you have-
Right, that was in our package, right? Somewhere here.
The traffic study.
Didn't we see that traffic study?
I did not see it. Travis.
Yeah, it would have been
Or did I read it?
better on it.
Good, I lost the application, you don't have the traffic study. I know.
And while we're searching, you want to give a quick rundown of the traffic study? And what Mr. Pernoff found?
Yeah, he went through his normal analysis of the area, and with the traffic on 125 already being 17,000 cars per day. I can go to his conclusions, and if you need a more thorough traffic station, we can definitely have Steve.
Yeah, I read it online.
Steve does talk about the site distance and that there's with routine trimming, maintenance of roadside vegetation within the highway right away, the required stopping site distance posted of 425 and 570 or 60 are achievable. And his findings and conclusions is access to the site is proposed via two-way driveway with the intersection on the west side of Bumford Road. Exit only driveway on the east side, which we talked about that potentially changing. And he talks about the number of vehicle trips per day on the road, 17,000. And with our proposal, he is estimating a generation of 11 vehicle trips in the AM and 19 vehicle trips in the PM when fully operational.
Do we have an idea on how many visitors he has currently on a daily basis?
Do you happen to know? He has
Well, average on a daily basis currently?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure business will pick up as site increases, but currently he's pretty successful. I was wondering.
Yeah, we
We had
had
a
an average on the high season of 11 during the weekday and currently 8. So.
And of course, as you know, what Steve's uses is his standard, he has a formula or whatever that gives him the uses.
Yeah.
And how many trips per day is expected out of those uses.
Yeah, I just figure whereas an existing business, we can kind of gather a good idea of what he's doing now currently, and
What
you
were
know, there'll
the
be some increase, but I don't think it'll be.
number of total trips per day?
That's where
The biggest thing will be build classes really when he has more people there, but I don't think it's going to be.
This new building,
outrageous.
size, anticipate business, which is the whole reason why they're doing it.
Absolutely, right.
Right.
I'm just saying, going from 11 to 1,000 a day, I don't think is.
No. So it was a 30 to 40% increase is what we had,
I think in the range of practical growth, given what 125 already sees, it's negligible.
Right.
I mean, it's.
So you're saying 79 trips in, 79 trips out on a weekday?
Versus 17,000 a day on the road right now.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Peak hours trip, it's in the AM, 11 trips. Peak hour
Right.
on the PM is 19 trips.
I mean, this number of trips.
Now, good luck turning south on 125 in the afternoon.
Yeah, he estimates that to what the percentage is. Site traffic is expected to be distributed approximately 70% to and from the north, 20% to and from the south. What, Steve? And his trips for the entire day is estimated between 156 to 320, which is under 500 trips per day, which is low traffic generate.
Right. So the question is it necessary to require a full traffic analysis is really the question we're asking ourselves. Steve,
So to Ron's point, yes, to Ron's point, it doesn't matter. That's true. What comes to mind is the Regional Planning Commission's build-out analysis. So if every lot along 125 were to be built out to this density, that would, I think, to most of our minds, be a catastrophic traffic situation. However, it would be onerous and unreasonable, I think, to say this is the straw that broke the camel's back because they're here first and all that building has not happened yet. So I don't think the contribution of traffic is serious by this development.
Yeah, I'd be more concerned on Route 9 than I am on 125, given the nature of the road as well as the traffic.
I mean, I do have some traffic concerns because, they book on that road. This, on the landscaping plan, this right here, is that, I'm a little concerned about it. Does that impact the sightlines looking south?
That was a low, I remember looking at that. That was a low,
There are some, yeah, this cluster of stuff.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we were going with
I don't
the,
like taking stuff out generally like I'm landscaping, but I certainly want that to grow and become a sightline problem.
Mhm.
Because traffic books along that road.
yeah,
Yeah, and the mechanism for slowing traffic down to 125, because it changes what, by turbo cam, and then it picks up to 50
yep.
to the remainder of the road, and,
Yeah, this is 50 along here.
Road straight, it's posted 50.
It is.
Yep.
yeah, and I don't know the mechanism that would,
But I share Ron's concern that we want to ensure that the shrubbery is kept back at a distance far enough from 125.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I hate to say it, but sometimes we are exiting a place and we're kind of rolling and we glance to the side
Mhm.
and we are thinking that we're going to get out onto the road. And if there's too much shrubbery there that obstructs the view, you want to be able to look up 125, or actually in that case, down 125, as far as you can. I mean, if you take the current town hall where it's at,
yeah,
and you try to get out of there and take a left turn in the afternoon, I mean, basically, you're taking your life in your hands, because even though you've got the required sight distances to your right when you're coming out of that town hall parking lot, fact is that people come zipping down that road, and that's technically a 50-mile-per-hour area.
yeah, it's scary.
And,
Yeah, I mean,
and you have got to, you got to be able to see, and
it's the same experience at leaving Cozy's,
right.
and
I
the
don't
whole-
see this being much different
no.
than that, other than at least you don't have the curve to contend with, but.
Yeah, and the one thing we have here is when we make that a 90-degree, that corner comes out and the shrubbery is back.
Yes,
And we lower it considerably.
I mean, basically, that shrubbery needs to be at least a car length back from the edge of the road.
Yep.
So
Yep.
as you're approaching the road, you've got.
Including growing in over time. it
Right,
should be
right.
even further
It's got to
back.
be maintained at least that distance.
Yeah, and one of the things that DOT will put in their permits as a condition will be that the sightline vegetation maintenance.
Yeah, that little section right there is just.
It's a bugger. Yeah.
And it's obviously in favor of the applicant too, to keep it clean.
And we have the maintenance plan for that, set up for the.
Sure, the applicant won't hear it if we want to take some landscaping out. No problem.
One of the things,
No.
well, we're talking about the roadway and entrances here, that was discussed previously, is whether, because of the truck traffic, which is now going to increase, was whether, and now that you got to change the intersection, you got to have, as a minimum, an apron from Bumford Road onto 125. The discussion before was paving at least back to that first entrance.
Right.
I mean, what's the plan? There was also a discussion of, should that extend back to the, where the back storage area, that entrance is? Or
Is that really necessary though? I mean, we know that we want to pave beyond the entrance to the business, but do we really need to go all the way down to the?
how frequently is that? Are deliveries going to be
Rare.
made to that?
Rarely, frankly, the deliveries are made up at the building and then the product is taken down from there on that path. That's why we put that path in there and then brought up as well.
So right now, we're showing right where the cursor is, that's where we're showing it. And I believe when I met with Mark, road agent, we had discussed going down here and he didn't feel, and he could speak up if I'm speaking incorrectly, but I think he said to just pass the entrance is sufficient, or in his mind would be sufficient.
I think that the pit traffic will probably far exceed their tractor trailer.
Yeah, they're
Oh, yeah.
anticipating,
Oh, yeah.
right now, they're anticipating one full-size truck a month.
Which brings me to the question of the
correct.
Connex farm. Why the Connex farm and not another building?
Why the Connex down here and not another building?
Yeah,
Cost. Simply.
Yeah.
Cost. It's on an engineered pad. Connexes are cheaper than putting in a new building.
This longer one is the ATF
Yeah, there'll be 7 connexes
certified
total.
one.
Yeah.
I guess my only comment on that would be vegetation. You know, I don't know if that's,
Well, that's, looking at the landscape plan, that's surrounded by vegetation.
is it? Yeah,
Yes.
Conic, okay. That would be my only comment on that.
Want to get back to the waiver?
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were discussing everything that would impact said
Not
waivers.
sure it's on track.
So, any more questions about traffic study
So
then?
there's
We can-
actually
we can move on
two-
that one,
2 waivers you were requesting, right?
right? Want to do the traffic study first? Any other questions or concerns or reasons to go for a full traffic study?
I guess my opinion is, in looking at this, is that I think the short traffic study in this case is adequate to address any potential impact.
Is that a motion?
No, that was an opinion.
So a motion is in order to waive the full
All
traffic
right.
study.
All right. Regulations on there. Where is that?
Jeff, what's the difference, excuse me, of what, the difference between the short and the long traffic?
Oh, it's considerable more work, certified, engineered
what does it-
analysis.
Oh, what, how can I say it? It's more intense, right? It's more detailed.
More data, more detail.
My concern is we've got Beauty Hill right up the road. And we have Commerce Way, which is definitely a very high impact in the evening from 4 o'clock on to 6. You've got Cozy's that is doing fantastic. There's times I try to get out of Commerce Way and I notice that people are backed up at Cozy's too, trying to get out. And I mean, I'm just looking for the future too. So would the short study kind of like take that into consideration or?
Well, so the devil's in the details. Why it's significantly more expansive with respect to time, cost, and money. Or time. So for instance, for the short traffic analysis, they're looking at the roadways, site distances, trip generations, trip distribution, which way it's going, and taking a look at, what's the current traffic, that's on 125. If you go to full impact, well, then you can't use any existing traffic counts that are over 2 years old. You'd have to go do your own. As I recall, 125 hasn't had a traffic count in that area in the last 2 years. I think this came up before, and I don't think it had.
2018?
Yes. Yeah, it's not scheduled one for some period. So in order to fulfill that requirement, they'd have to do a traffic count. You have to do a design year traffic projections 10 years out for the traffic on that roadway that they're intersecting over a 10-year period. You've got to do
Numbers.
the trip distribution for the highway and analysis of all adjacent roadways. You've got to do, peak hour capacity analysis for all study intersections, including driveways. So, I mean, and there's more requirements.
So does DOT take the responsibility every so many years and do?
Yes.
And
Yes, 'cause I know it came up recently with respect to Route 9, and they were doing one in the next couple of years, I think, on that.
I stand corrected. There's actually data collected from 2020. You'll see that.
Oh, there is, okay.
Yeah.
But he's kind of discounting it because of COVID.
Touche.
So he's 2018, 19, he's got some numbers.
Okay,
20 was,
so that is good. So that wouldn't necessarily be an issue, but, so it's a much more extensive analysis, than, you know,
Sure.
what would
I
be
understand that,
required.
but I'm trying to look at what's the outcome, the true outcome. What are we doing here? What are we doing in that
Well,
section?
you know, with respect to an individual project under the purview of the planning board, we're looking at, can there be safe access? And frankly, because it's a state road, we don't get the final call on that anyway. As you know, from Joe Falzone's development, you know, the state weighs in and whatever they want. We just had South up here, they want to pave the apron. No. So the state gets the final call anyway.
Okay.
So
I guess-
we're just trying to determine, you know, if it's safe and whether, you know, it's going to have an impact. Clearly, the short traffic analysis would indicate that that number of cars on a daily basis would not impact the traffic on 125. Long-term, 125 is a problem, but the state's going to have to address that.
Yeah, and I think Donna's question might be is, would a full traffic analysis ever perpetuate a changing of the entrances to the other business on 125? You know, putting a light down the road and changing the intersection
Again, that's
to
back.
make all of it safe.
Right, right.
But would that traffic analysis show?
No,
If you read your 4.14.1, the only thing that says they would need to do that full traffic analysis is because the building's over 10,000 square feet. The rest of the stuff
Right.
they're underneath, so
right.
that was really the only qualifying thing. And because of that type of business, it's not like an Irving open up where they got a constant flow of traffic based on the size of the building, which is the reason why this one's listed. So really, you'd only be waiving that one section because the building's over 10,000. The rest of the stuff, they're underneath enough so you could do the traffic analysis.
So if they were to do a full traffic analysis, I am totally confident it would come out to the same conclusion,
Okay.
which is that this isn't going to impact 125.
Yeah.
Would it have an impact, to go into your question, on any other traffic controls on 125? No, because the state's going to be the one that's going to determine that. And this traffic analysis, in my opinion, would not contribute one way or the other to the state taking some action or not taking some action. I don't see that this would be of value to the state
Okay.
in order to do something about that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if you don't mind, this is actually something that the town's been working with the state on. And we were actually able to secure some funds to do what's called a road safety audit at the intersection of Beauty Hill and 125. And so this section of Route 125 is very much on the state's radar. There aren't any planned improvements, but I'm sure that in the conversations with the driveway permit, they will be considering the work that they've already done, understanding the traffic impacts and the other, like you mentioned, the intersection of Beauty Hill, Commerce Way. But there was folks interested in developing the property at the corner of Beauty Hill and 125. In conversations with the state and taking access, they referenced all the information from the road safety audit. So it's very much on their radar. And if you want some more information from that, the results of that road safety audit, I could show you some of the what's on the radar and the results of what they found.
Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
I would say I concur with Jeff on that concept of the short one being valid. If it was a town road and it was a decision the town was making on access, we might want more information. But where the state is going to authorize whatever happens there, they're going to come up with their own requirements to what they want. They might say this short one's not valid, they want more information, but that's their purview because it's their road.
I appreciate it.
And and frankly, I don't want to scare you, but I mean, we don't even know that the state might come back and go, well, you know what? You got Bumford Road. You don't need to have your own driveway. So we have no way of knowing what they're going to say.
I understand there is going to be, I think there is money in the infrastructure bill for more corridor studies. It's been a long time, and certainly that's something that would help address some of the questions and concerns that exist.
My understanding that the despite the opinion that it's very dangerous, in reality, it's not that bad.
This
From a-
particular section of it. road, yeah.
Is bad.
No, this particular section of the road actually has pretty good sight distance.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, everybody has the feel that it's such a bad section of road, but from accident reports from the police, this was years ago when previous chief, there really wasn't that many accidents that happened on the road. It's just nobody likes it because it's
No,
dangerous.
because
You
you're
gotta-
sitting there waiting forever to
Right.
try to
So-
make a turn, and cars are zipping by, and you're trying to guess the gap, and when you do pull out, you're almost holding your breath, because you're hoping nobody runs you over.
Beauty Hill's pretty bad. There's a number of
Yeah,
accidents.
no, that,
Beauty Hill's bad.
I think it's
Beauty?
worse. I think it's worse by his shop there.
Oh,
Coming out there, there's always someone laid up in the woods there.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
All right, so a motion to,
Okay.
a motion to waive the requirements for a full
All right.
traffic analysis is what we're
let
looking
me,
for.
get my, together here. All right, so I will make a motion to waive site plan review regulation, 4.14.1 requiring a full traffic analysis for application 251 dash, is that 63? I think so. Dash RG dash 21 dash R, SR as, not approving the waiver would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant. Granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation.
Second. Motion by Jeff Brand, second by Ron Allard, Andy M.
Andy, am I?
Donna Masucci,
Yeah,
Ron Allard, Steve Diamond,
Diamond Eye.
Jeff Brand,
Brian, I.
James Jennison, aye. Waiver granted for, traffic analysis. Next, we got legends on pages 9 through 19.
We're gonna let them get away with shoddy plans?
I think it was your suggestion.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm fixing that in the regulation.
I think this should be your motion, Jim.
Yeah, it probably should be.
Do we don't need to have a lot of discussion on this one, do we? All right.
I hope not. I make a motion to waive section 3.2.7 for legends on sheets 9 through 16. For application, here we go again, 251-63-RG-21-SR, and not granting the waiver, but unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of regulations.
second.
Motion by Jeff Brand, second by Donna Masucci, Andy M. Donna Masucci,
Suchi, aye.
Ron Allard,
Alan, aye.
Steve Diamond,
Diamond Eye.
Jeff Brand,
Brand, I.
James Jennison, aye. Waiver granted for legends from pages 9 through 16. All right.
Now on to the.
On the renditions, I was curious, where is the retail shop? Such a huge building, such a small.
Well, it's, there's a cantilevered mezzanine level on the second.
It'll be inventory up there.
Yeah, in the renderings, I didn't exactly see where the store was.
If you look right in the middle, you'll see the entry, then you've got sales floor on the first floor, pardon me, with your stairs going up to the second floor, where there's a cantilevered mezzanine going all the
Yeah.
way around.
So where's the store?
Right,
That center or all of this area here is still.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
first floor.
That is.
And the second floor
All right.
left store as well.
Yep, second floor, if
Right
you look
here,
at the blue, the mezzanine going around the,
All right.
Just curious. Any,
We need to act on accepting the application.
didn't we already accept the
You did
application?
accept the application.
We did?
Yeah, these, things you waived wasn't part of the
Well, that's,
necessary.
right, it was on the plan, right, okay, so we already did that.
We're on to questions about the plans.
Oh, goody.
You said you had lighting ones.
Yeah, okay, so waiver request. You got the drawing up there. So you've got, that one's, any of them's fine up in there.
Lighting.
So you have 5 parking spots that are to the west of the loading area on the northwest corner of the building. And you state that you're going to, those spaces will not be utilized for loading, when there's loading or unloading. But how are you gonna enforce that?
They could be designated as employee parking or something like that.
Okay, so the employees park there in the morning, and 10 o'clock in the morning, the truck shows up to make a delivery. You're gonna make them all move their cars?
I would say no.
Well, I wouldn't think so either, so.
It's just my screen was.
Oh.
So I'm trying to understand your note that says, that 5 parking spaces not to be utilized during loading and unloading operations. So what does that mean?
Actually, the parking is all the way down by the dumpster.
Go to PCP. That sheet shows it with the note. So it says whenever you're unloading or loading, there's no parking there.
Which they'll have designated loading times, delivery times.
Yep.
And that will have to be managed by
I
the,
guess the simpler question, is it necessary
Yeah.
to have?
If a
I mean,
truck's
if
there, you
guys wanna
can't park
block it off
there.
during- But we need to know it on the plan.
If
right,
your employees can't leave for lunch because there's a truck parked there, that's between you and your employees. Who cares?
yep, we can remove the note.
I'm just trying to understand. It just didn't make sense. And if a truck is there and the parking spot is empty, they're not going to be able to get to it. So it seems like it's self-regulating, actually.
It is, and frankly, it's the once a month 53 footer that comes in, parks. I mean, yeah, why have the note on there in the first place?
It just, yeah, because then it's like, well, how are you going to sign it? How are you going to control it? Do you have to move the cars out when the truck comes? I mean, okay, on to illumination. So which category did you use in table 7 out of the site review regulations? There's 3 categories there. Which one in the table did you use to determine what requirements you needed to meet?
Sharon Lighting did the design. I can't actually tell you exactly what criteria they used. They told us they used criteria to meet the town of Barrington regulation. I'll have to get that answer.
Well, that's not very definitive. Well, I'm just trying to figure it out because depending on which one you use, there are a couple of areas where you would be outside of the table limits, and that's why I'm trying to figure out which one, because for the 3 different categories, it has the different lighting, what the values have to be. And I was trying to, I can't compare whether your plan meets the standards or not if I don't know what standards you're trying to meet.
And the only,
For the next meeting, correct?
I can have that for the next meeting. And the only 2 that typically you can't have anything spill over your lot lines in most towns would be these 2 on the entrance and exit are the ones that do anything over the lot line. And that would be the light up the entrance.
Okay, well, that's not all we have in our regulations.
Yep,
We have maximum and minimums for the different type of areas. And in particular, and one of the reasons I'm asking is I noticed it's up near the building, but on the north side of the building, like you have a value of 3.9 and 4.5 in the parking area, which would exceed all the maximum table values.
Okay.
So whether the others are appropriate or not, it's hard to say without knowing which category you are. In looking at it, it would appear to me that you would fall in the second category, which is a medium parking lot activity level.
Okay.
And in that case, the maximum is 2.4, the minimum is 0.6. which I think in most other cases, you're in pretty good shape except right up next to the building. But again, I don't know. That's on page 54, site plan review. So I don't know which one that you, so for the next meeting,
Yep.
we need to understand that. And
And my only comment on that would be, if it's possible, I think to the business, and with some recent burglaries, that going up to the next higher lighting might be,
next to the building may be appropriate.
you know,
Yeah, that may be, but if that's the case, they need to come in with a waiver. If they're gonna exceed the table values, we're gonna need to waive the table value.
sure, fair enough.
Okay.
All right.
All right. In general, it seems like medium is appropriate. There may be a justification for a waiver based on the nature of the business that you want to increase lighting along the building. That's okay. I'm just saying, we got requirements and either we got to meet them or we got to waive them.
Right, but I mean, this is open to interpretation as far as low. They could fit into the low with educational, industrial
They could.
employee, you know, so it's kind of.
They could, but their maximum values around the building exceed the maximum value for category 1.
Yeah.
So either way, like I said, they either got to meet them or we got to waive them.
Yeah.
And I'm not hard over me personally on this. It's just
No, we gotta meet the regulation,
got to meet the regulations.
get that fixed.
Give justification for wanting more light closer to the building to justify the waiver.
I know the owner would probably like to light it up like New York City, but
Well, I understand, but
no, I know,
I don't want to be able to see it on my house on France Road, you know.
right.
It might be worth getting something from the the police chief, because of the type of stuff you got there.
Yep.
He might recommend having a little more light, so if they do a drive-by, they can see if anything's going on by the building at night.
Speaking of the tables, so it says you got to give us the U ratio and average for your lighting plan. I didn't see that. There's no notes on this particular plan that would tell me that you meet those values
Okay.
requirements, so need to see what those are.
Before we leave that, I mean, to me, this is a pretty good looking building, and having more light right next to the building would be something that certainly a waiver request would not be unreasonable.
Right.
What Jeff said.
Yeah.
But if it's up in the six category.
Yeah,
Well, what if
I
you,
think
yeah,
that's what Jeff's saying.
if you're pointing, if you're pointing the lights at the road, that would be a bad thing.
Well, your maximum is 2.4 in the medium.
Yeah.
On high is 3.6. Let's say you want to go 3.6
That's probably an.
right next to the building, that would be something.
Yeah, but they've got values up in the fours, so.
Yeah, I can't read it on my little plan, but.
3.7, 4.5, 3.9,
Difficult to read on mine, too.
so, yeah. That's why I gotta say big plans, so I can read the
Get
data.
a big plan.
I do have a big plan. So that's why, also, you're supposed to specify what the, mounting, the poles, when you have the pole lights, what the heights are. I didn't see that in the plan. It says they can vary, that under the detail sheet, it says they can vary, I think it was from 9 to 32 or 36 feet.
Mhm.
But you're supposed to specify
Type and
on your
fixture.
plans. It does give the type of fixture, but on the poles, you're also supposed to tell what is your height.
Yeah, and on the sheet, there's a chart, I think that the AFG is above finished grade,
And frankly.
Oh, okay,
feet above finished. grade.
that's, all right, if that's what that means,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't get the acronym, I guess.
Wall mounts are 15 and then the poles are all.
All right, speaking of the wall mounts, so also a requirement is that the building renderings will show the lights and show what area of the side of the building is being illuminated by the lights.
You don't see it on this one?
These are showing lights here and then,
Those are showing lights, but as part of your illumination plan, you're supposed to show what area of the building is being lit by those lights.
Also, on the lighting plan, you show three lights on the front.
okay.
That one shows one.
Oh, sad.
Yeah, you're showing 3 lights.
Yeah.
I'm not, just so I'm clear on that, what do you, this is showing on the lighting plan, showing where the lights are going along the building and what part?
On the ground, right?
Oh, it's against the building and on the ground. The
Right.
area, it's illuminated.
Cones of illumination or where the light's gonna be. The lighting plan. So the dark one is the brighter and then it goes down, goes out.
And it's all downlight, those fixtures, 15-foot.
The rendering you had on before.
Yeah, the rendering, we will have to
Yeah,
update
yeah,
that for
that's-
sure.
That's outdated, but
Right.
yeah, that we need to
That,
fix.
that shows.
Rendering,
Yeah.
And you might end up doing 4 lights because of the canopy going out, so you can get the light to the ground too.
I would,
Or do a light underneath.
Underneath the
and
canopy.
Just have the 2 on the building. You guys can determine that. later.
well, I can't find it at the moment, but I know there's a requirement, because I've gone through this like 10 times before. There's a requirement that says you're gonna show on the rendering what area of the building is being illuminated by the wall mounted lights.
yeah, I'm just wondering how to do, if this doesn't show that, then what would show that?
I don't see any,
Well, as,
Are you talking about?
is that a rendering?
as John said,
When you say rendering, there's, I mean, is it color rendering or is this the plan view? I'm not sure.
No, it's not the-
John said that's incorrect because
No, we have to
the
update.
canopy, it says 15 feet high. And
Yeah.
go over the canopy and you're not gonna get light onto the canopy.
Yeah, no, we
Right.
concur. I mean, it is outdated, absolutely. That needs to be corrected.
Well, this plan I think is incorrect as well.
The plan's right, it was the rendering that was incorrect.
This plan is wrong too, because the ones along the wall are W's. Now that we know what the 15 means, that means 15 feet high.
Yeah.
15 feet high is clear at the bottom of the canopy in the front.
Right, the
No, no.
canopy would block out,
Yeah.
but there'd be light under the
That's right.
canopy.
This plan's gotta be fixed too.
Well, once I understand what you mean by showing it on the building, then we can get
But-
that to you. I just want to understand it. I'm not questioning it.
Well, John said that one's gotta be under the canopy, so it can't be 15 feet high, the one right over with the canopy.
No, but I guess we have to go back a little bit to what Jeff was saying is how it goes onto the building. I'm not sure how to represent that in a plan other than this schematic.
On the rendering,
On the color rendering you're
Yeah.
talking about?
all people do is show a lightly shaded area. That's, you
Okay.
draw a triangle on, from the.
Okay, I just never seen that before, to be honest.
And what I'm saying is 15 feet high,
Yeah,
the
you're
canopy.
Right, it would be
just
above the
underneath
sign.
here.
Canopy, and
will be blocked, but the light will come down here and here.
you need to have a light under the canopy.
That could just be a simple ceiling light on the canopy to give them entranceway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the canopy came later, yeah.
But once you go lower, you get lower spread in the lights. So
Mhm.
you may have to redo the whole front. The higher up you can go, you can get a better spread. And once you go down low, you can't get that spread, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
You still looking for it?
Found it. Drawing of all relevant building elevations showing the fixtures, the portions of the walls to be illuminated, the luminance levels of the walls, and the aiming points of any remote light fixtures. That's the requirement. It's 3.8 parents 5.
So if you're planning on having like a sign or something on the building that's gonna be lit up, you wanna show that too.
Okay.
Oh, I put that next to the table.
What are you looking for?
3.8 lighting. Yeah. That's like-
Gotta go.
Yeah, I know. The requirement of what's on the plan isn't up in the section with illumination.
Right.
That's because there's a whole list of plan requirements, and then there's the requirements for how you're supposed to illuminate the site and the buildings. So they're in two separate, but that's why it took me a while to find it.
Next.
Other questions, comments? Obviously, because of the drainage.
I think that when they figure out what they're gonna be doing for upgrade on Bumpy Road, the drainage from the road and the parking should all be incorporated because
Yep.
it depends on what they do for impervious area, it's gonna change the drainage. in
Yep,
that area.
I agree. But at some point in time, we're gonna want this to go out for third party.
Oh, correct. Yeah. But I think you should determine
Agreed.
exactly what's gonna happen before you send it out.
Right, I understand.
Signage going into the Connex area to,
Sorry, you said signage?
signage going into the Connex area saying it's not, public or not part of the store, to prevent people from pulling into that, something to that effect.
Yeah, should that
Sign.
drive into the Connex area, storage area, be marked? That's,
Yeah, it's like a walkway.
no,
From Bumford Road?
from Bumford Road in?
Right.
For deliveries?
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
see what
10
you're
feet
saying.
wide. We could do a sign up here saying, oh.
I don't, even a gate or a sign, I don't know if it'd be a
There is-
where it's.
There is gates on, up by the facility itself.
Yeah, it's,
There's right here, and then with the details on the detail sheet of the,
But it might be good
yep.
to put a sign up there.
Bumford Road.
Yeah, it says,
And
yeah,
those-
no unauthorized entry or whatever.
And those gates would be, have access by the fire chief, right? Knox box, Knox fire access.
We did get comments from the chief. I've got, reached out to him. I haven't heard back from him yet to,
Well, there was a detail on an alarm box. Is that, so that's fire intrusion, that's the whole 9 yards?
it's on our
That'd be
architectural,
architectural plan.
it's on our architectural. Absolutely.
Well, isn't there mention of a, yeah, I don't think I dreamed that. Isn't there something on your plans here?
Yeah, it's on, DET-4.
oh,
Let's see.
Right after the lighting.
And also onto the.
What are you looking for?
Well, there was yeah, I know there was mention of it, but.
It's on DET-2 board.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's on DET 2. Detectable warning panel.
yeah, those are for your handicap slopes.
Oh.
Oh, okay, got it.
Rumble strip,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty obtuse.
Come up to describe it. All right.
I have a few things on the landscape plan.
Yep.
It's
go
a
ahead,
good time
Steve.
for that.
Yes.
All right, so in general, I love it. It's very nice, pretty well done. A few thoughts. So keep in mind that birch.
It's the first time I've ever heard him say that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
First time.
you guys want to note that, hey?
Congratulations.
Hey, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Birch trees break kind of easily, especially when under snow load. And if I looked in the detail on the plan on there's kind of a disagreement among landscape people around whether or not to cut the central leader and when it's appropriate or whatever. So the notes on the plan say never cut leader, but there's good reasons why you might want to promote growth lower down, to help visually block, and to avoid having a tree become a hazard. So especially trees that grow real fast, like birch, you mentioned red maple and hemlock, those can handle being cut back of the central leader pretty well and respond to that, especially if it's not a super elderly tree. So there's a few caveats to that, but you might want to trim these back on occasion, including the central leader. I happen to have some spiderwort, and it is very tough. It spreads readily, and the notes reflect that on your plan. I find it especially good for steep slopes to really secure that, but it can get away from you. The plan details talked about loam and mentioned fertilizer. As I always generally say, organic compost and any kind of mulch. If you put somewhat better soil in to begin with, the need for watering is somewhat reduced, and your chance of success, not losing plants, is improved. You don't necessarily need chemical fertilizer. Several things on the plan mentioned the need of fertilizer, but again, the better the material, the less you have to amend, especially with chemicals. And I think that covers all of my items. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are you leaning towards putting a barbed wire fence around the Connex boxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got a couple of things if it's,
Yep.
One Donkey Road, it's still a 75-foot setback, even though it's a town road.
Yep.
Showed on the plan before you had 40 on that.
Yep, we do have the building 75. That's a building setback, correct?
Correct.
On there, we will add it.
Thought I saw in the other plan, it just showed the 40 foot coming off of it. There, we are in the process of trying to change that in the regulations to town road. As of right now, it's still 75.
Okay.
Also, because of the site review that not site review. I went out to 2A Tactical this past weekend for another issue. And they have these hazardous material boxes. So typically, because of something like this, you would have MSDS sheets in the hazardous material location, and it would be noted in the building for the fire department. So that's something that you'd want to have on this, to make sure that it's taken care of.
That would be on the building plans that were submitted, not these plan set somewhere.
Yeah, so the fire department knows what materials are there with the MSDS sheets, because there's a thing about having them on site for them, and then also the location of that.
Well, I mean, we'd like to know where they're gonna be storing.
Yeah, a lot of times it's on a
Yeah.
site plan too.
Yeah, we want to see it on the site plan.
And then they got these real nice boxes now that they keep all the stuff in that meets that requirements. I don't know if the building's bigger, if it's gonna be something that's gonna be enlarged, more materials and stuff. I know that's, no.
With respect to the main building, obviously the Connex boxes, we understand what they're for. There's storage and they're steel boxes for a reason. It's not a tent.
Struggling with the visual nature of Connex Farm surrounded by barbed wire, but as that road is private, I guess I will leave it be. I mean, class 6.
You won't get close enough to look at
What do you mean? It's only-
You'll be in town.
You're not authorized, you can't go down.
You can see it from the parking lot.
The point that Jamie's making with that.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That gravel pit ever gets done and developments happen out behind there, having a visual buffer from that road might not be a bad idea.
Right. And
But I think there is.
We have a visual.
Yeah, from the box, the road buffer.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not a very appealing look.
And that's it's down behind the building substantially down.
That topography drops quite a bit going back. to
It does.
Unless you go down Bumford, you probably see it.
You definitely wouldn't see it.
So there's wooded area, so there's a wooded area in front along Bumford Road between the building
Might get buried.
and the Connex storage area. And with the only exception being the pathway, the drive into the Connex storage area.
Yeah, and it looks like
Yeah.
it drops,
See it right
about
there.
8 feet, maybe 10 feet from the road.
From the road, it's
182 to 178.
Does that 10-foot wide meet access requirements for that area?
You looked at me and just said, oh, yeah.
Yes, it's 9
The
feet.
10-foot wide access to those Connex boxes off those
It
class 6 roads, is that?
It might be something you want to have a conversation with, have them have a conversation with the fire chief, depending on what they're going to be keeping in them Connex boxes and what you might need for access to them.
So to me, that's something that's vague and that we may need to know that's what's being stored in there, if that's gonna then be a requirement.
That's some of that hazardous material that could be an issue, and the fire chief feels that he's gonna need something wider for access to get, a truck.
Yeah.
You know, if you let him know what you're planning on storing and how it's gonna be there, I'm sure he can give you a straight answer to
Yeah.
what his fire code requirements are.
I was absent at the previous, meeting. Did anyone, ask or look at, the bullet trap location in the building and, what the specs are on that?
Mhm.
That was discussed at the
Yep,
previous meeting?
yep, 10-inch concrete walls with rebar, and then ballistic material out of that.
So there's not gonna be a bullet trap per se, it's gonna be a shooting?
Are you talking about it at the end?
The current bullet trap they use,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I forget what it's called. Yes, the same thing will be on the inside. The wall will be lined with it. And then it's an additional 10-inch concrete walls around rebar.
This is just for test firing something after it's manufactured. It's not a shooting range, correct?
Right. That is correct. Yeah, it's not a shooting.
That makes a difference. So
Yeah, no, it's not a shooting range. It's, on the average of 1-2 times a day where they'll test fire
sure.
a firearm that they've worked on.
Yep.
So the fire chief, his concerns were that there be the signage for no parking fire lane.
Mhm.
I don't understand. Is property marked across the front of the building?
Yeah,
Yeah, I wasn't really following that either.
yeah, so if you,
travel way in front of them parking spaces.
Yeah.
They did say maintain a 20-foot clear with pavement spaces on the front of the building and edge of pavement edge.
yeah, what he told me when I met with him is that, so that where we have our parking spaces in front, that's good. The fire lane, at the end of the opposite of it, right here, yeah, right there. It has to say, no parking fire lane.
Okay.
Yep, and it had to be the 20 feet, which we met.
He doesn't have a requirement to have access, to the other two sides?
Yep, same thing, same thing.
Fire apparatus accessible to the side rear corner of the building. That's required by code. And he says marking the pavement between the building spot, no parking fire lane.
Correct.
So you can't have any parking along right-hand side of that building.
No, that shouldn't be here.
What's this?
The
This?
parking, yeah, there's no parking spaces right there. This was to be open, and then on the left-hand side was to be open, and it's to be no parking fire lane. So that just needs to be corrected on the plan. Yep.
So I'm clear, the fire lane is this,
Yep, and on the right side as well.
and these two handicap spaces will go away?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so now you've just reduced handicap by 2.
Requirement is only
Yeah,
2. We had,
sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
If he wants 4, he could redesignate.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
You could put them on the, on the north side. Right there.
All right.
Wraps on the door.
Has it been, is it addressed hours of operation? And something to mention that comes up is other outdoor activity that's not otherwise specified.
Yeah, we discussed hours of operation before, and there was one special event that they do.
Yeah,
And so the parking for the special event once a year,
Mhm.
how many people, where are they gonna park?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
Check it in.
You've got substantial extra parking.
Well, maybe
We do, yeah.
the next time that you come back, you
Yeah.
have the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
the problem is how many, sorry, I don't know how many cars we're talking about.
I mean, at any given time.
40.
Yeah, I mean, up to 40, 45 cars, but they're not there the whole time. They're there, they do their rounds, they leave the next.
We have the,
It would be under 50.
it seems to be a trend in the firearms business to have car shows and gun shopping.
Car shows?
Huh? Car shows.
shows?
Yeah. And I don't, we've discussed this,
Renaissance something.
huh?
Okay.
Well, no, even, McPherson does it too. It seems like they all do it, come drive your cars over here and buy guns, which sounds like a good idea to me.
You gotta have,
But
I get a
do we
letter from my client stating that.
address outdoor activities?
I'd say definitely have car shows.
It just needs to
You're
be,
gonna have like a display area or something like that
right, it
outside
just needs to be
when you set
noted
up.
that, once permitted, the parking lot being of substantial size, it's not a free-for-all to do whatever, I guess. Where sometimes that's misconstrued in regulation that once you build it, you can do whatever you want in the parking lot.
So in other cases, we've had like a maximum occupancy to address that,
Right.
you know?
Or the understanding to come in for, more site review if the use changes, I guess.
Does the town have a special event permit process like Nottingham has?
This, we do,
Not
'cause
specifically, maybe it's something we should look into in
Yeah.
the future, but.
I mean, if I may, in the past, we've contacted the Chief Joy, and actually we've had a police detail there and so forth. So parking and proper flow of traffic has been really important to us. We wanted to make sure that was finished.
Well, maybe you can propose to us a maximum number based on, your parking and everything. Maximum number of people that then kick in, you got to contact.
I mean, the concern here is you have a very successful event, you start parking along that front edge, you take away the fire lane.
Well, I see
Well,
people parking down
Bumper
Bumford Road. is
And
what
on a
I see.
weekend, it probably wouldn't be a problem if, if the pit's closed.
Something
Um,
like that.
And maybe the
Okay,
type of
so we're gonna-
special events you might have, just so, to go along with that thing that Jamie said, if you're gonna have special event, is it gonna be like the once a year thing that we do it for this, or is it gonna be a monthly thing and we're gonna have different types of events? So if it's something that you're planning on doing, that it's addressed now instead of having zoning violations, or I gotta come out and knock on the door.
One of the special events seems to have circulated around a significant amount of excavation.
And then you did.
So
It's just these
I don't
are the
know,
applications afterwards that we did.
as it's appropriate sometimes just we choose not knowing to permission. So, like with the trenches dug in his yard to do some of the previous events, it would need to be, I think, site excavation for future events would need to be addressed, I think, and not, does that make sense?
Kinda, I mean, what we did discuss, if there was overflow parking, like with Steve Lindsay's pit, of having like the employees park down there and perhaps using that as an overflow, that's acceptable, right?
Well,
As long as it's not on Bumford Road.
it could be, but that's why we're saying, then give us something, some kind of limitation that says, when you go beyond this number, then you've got to make.
It's really.
Arrangements for-
John says, for your protection as well.
Sure.
If you propose it, it's accepted,
Mm.
then you're covered. If it's not, then you get a violation. John's gonna come down there.
Sure.
It's a whole thing.
So if we
Dan,
don't
We
have.
even had a
wait
board member here decide to do some yard sales on the weekend and come in and got special permission from the planning board here to do that on their parking lot.
Then gotta open it up for-
Yeah.
Right. Damn.
Yes.
Can I speak as a selectman?
We'll open up the public comment and give you opportunity.
Right. Well, as a selectman, we can waive parking on the streets, town streets, but 125 State Road, couldn't do there. So if they get permission for abutters or the town for Bumford, that's be allowable. I would watch it messing with the state, because the state will not like it.
No.
No.
Right. And I don't imagine anybody's going to park on 125 and walk down in.
Yard sales they do, and we had a problem down there on the yard sales.
I didn't,
Down further.
they come down on us, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being a member of the conservation, they reviewed this, they liked it, they liked the plans, and they liked the landscaping too, so.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Just one question. You showed the propane tank on the right side and it's buried, right?
Yes.
Okay. Where is the propane, the little bobtail truck that's gonna fill that tank? Where they park it?
They'll-
Handicap spot?
These two spots will be gone
Yeah.
because there'll be a fire lane, so that will be open.
Okay.
Yep.
Because they, no, you get the leach field right there. They can't
Right.
bring that on leach field.
Are there any other people that would like to make public comment that are here? If there's anybody that's listening that would like to make comment, you can unmute *6.
We've exceeded everyone's bedtime now.
I watch the Red Sox.
Are they winning or
No,
losing?
Red Sox, that's right. Barbara doesn't know. She's got it over there on her computer on mute.
Yeah. Come on, Barb, give us the update.
All right, any more questions then? And we'll close public comment. Good?
Is Bucky Dent playing?
All right.
They're ahead.
So a date to continue. So,
Yeah, we're gonna.
third party now.
No, we want to wait until it's resolved, Mumford Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do understand it takes a while even to get a price back from Citi right now. If there's a way we could get that so that we know.
You can start the process and let them know that you're gonna be doing work on the road too. You know,
Yeah.
Was it down to what, just past this? You got-
Yeah, right past where that.
Let them know that that information's not ready, but this is what you're proposing.
Yeah.
Get something from them.
You might be able to get the estimate going.
Right.
Say, plans to follow.
Yep.
That would just cut a week or two off the process.
Yeah. How, we'll reach out to you, John, about that, or how does that work?
Yeah, it should come through our office, and what I've done with Brock's was you would talk
Oh, I got it.
Josh, but include me and Barbara on the email stuff going back and forth. That way, the planning department knows what's happening back and forth with the communications.
Yep.
I mean, if you got other people that are doing professional stuff for you that you want them involved too, you can just include it in the emails, just as long as, we're included, so we see what's happening.
Okay.
All right, continuance date in mind.
I think if we can come in, even if it's for an update on November 2nd, I think it was the date that you were continuing. Because hopefully we'll get in, we'll speak with the selectmen on the 18th and then hopefully get something with DOT, at least a conversation with them.
Make a motion, continue this case, whatever it is, application. Application 251-63-RG-21-SR until 2 November 2021.
Second.
Motion by Jeff Brand, second by Ron Allard, Andy M.
Aye.
Tom Succi, Ron Allard, Steve Diamond,
Diamond Eye?
Jeff Brand,
Brand, aye.
James Jennison, aye. Continue to November 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And they come across.
Thank you.
Kind of seems negative, but. I know, that's what I'm saying.
All right, what else we got? Anything? Nothing else?
Ron could have.
I would
his
love to
own
get an
show
update
down
from John on the status of hiring a person to look at the zoning.
We actually have talked to someone and we're anticipating them being here for that meeting in 2 weeks, to come to the meeting. She has a lot of experience writing regulations and stuff, doing master plans, and she's also a long-term planner that's basically retired. So she understands all the other stuff that's going on around. So it's not like it's going to be no problems. We have given her the zoning, the subdivision, and the site review, and Jeff's stuff that we had.
Well, I'm not even near done.
No, but I mean, some of it, just so she's got an idea of what we're talking about. And we actually mentioned the zoning articles that were discussed that we're planning on working on. So when she comes in, she'll be able to work with the board and be up to speed really quick is what we're.
Well, zoning,
great.
zoning is the priority.
All right. Motion to adjourn till the
I make a motion.
site walk.
Second, third.
I make a motion, yes.
All in favor, say
Adjourn to the
aye.
site walk.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Hell, I.